dearly was indeed part of the affluent elite. My apologies, esteemed guest, but I have matters to attend to. I may not be able to stay for this appointment. Fong Yuanyuan's facial muscles tightened as she swiftly lowered her head, bending to turn away. Yet, Qin Lang was not inclined to let such an opportunity slip away. Was it merely money? If it weren't for financial incentive, how could Fong Yuanyuan, who should only be working at night, appear here during the day? Taking a sleek black bag from Junzi, Qin Lang extracted 2 neat stacks of crimson banknotes, dropping them onto Fong Yuanyuan. Is this sufficient? Gulp. Fong Yuanyuan glanced down, unable to suppress a greedy swallow. 20,000. This amount equaled her entire monthly salary. Furthermore, she had only recently begun her employment with the affluent elite and had no savings. This sum was substantial for her. If Zhang Mingchen were not present, she would have had no hesitation in accepting it. She would have already been galloping towards it. However, reality did not permit such indulgence. She had just severed ties with Zhang Mingchen and was now involved with Wang Xiao. Sacrificing such a promising benefactor for a mere 20,000 seemed utterly unworthy. Before Fong Yuanyuan could refuse, Qin Lang rummaged through the bag again, hurling more stacks of crimson 100 yuan notes in her direction. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000. Is that enough? Can't we have a little fun? Qin Lang inquired with a smile. Given that she was already in this line of work, this price was more than adequate, not just for Fong Yuanyuan, but even for an inexperienced model or a naive young girl. If she remained unsatisfied, Qin Lang would certainly raise the offer further. For the sake of Zhang Mingchen, this price was negligible. But how could one put it? As someone who had traversed realms, he found such malicious price inflation utterly intolerable. Fong Yuanyuan raised her head, adopting a serious demeanor as she gazed at Zhang Mingchen. What transpires today? You must not disclose to anyone, understood? Even at this juncture, with her true identity laid bare, in Fong Yuanyuan's heart, Zhang Mingchen remained unworthy of her. Zhang Mingchen nodded, utterly dumbfounded. Fong Yuanyuan released her bun, allowing her long, lustrous black hair to cascade down her shoulders. With a flirtatious smile, she turned her gaze towards Qin Lang. Dear guest, did you arrive first, or did the two of you come together? Or perhaps all 3 of you? There were 3 of them in total. Qin Lang, Junzi, and Zhang Mingchen. Fong Yuanyuan did not intend to pry. Yet the substantial sum of 100,000 yuan made her uneasy about leaving it to just one person. She felt compelled to inquire. Such a hefty amount was something she might not earn even after months of toil. Even with her association with young Master Wang, there was no certainty of receiving such a sum in cash. Some material possessions could indeed be reclaimed post-breakup, but cash firmly in hand was undeniably hers. Moreover, if she continued working for a few more months, the risk of being discovered would only increase. It was far better to seize this opportunity and depart immediately. Pointing towards Zhang Mingchen, who remained silent, Qin Lang inquired curiously, Are you unwilling? Zhang Mingchen shook his head, feeling as though his worldview was crumbling. Before he could respond, Fong Yuanyuan seized his arm. Come with me, she insisted, dragging him into the private room before he could refuse. This was the Emperor's suite, expansive and equipped with both recreational and resting areas. Zhang Mingchen found himself propelled into an unexpected situation. Shortly thereafter, sounds emerged from within. Junzi, listening nearby, felt a twinge of apprehension and asked, Young master, why didn't you agree when that woman invited you to join? Qin Lang lifted his gaze, fully aware of Junzi's insinuation. With a playful tone, he replied, Aren't you the one who prefers older women? Caught off guard, Junzi sheepishly scratched the back of his head. True, I do prefer the more mature ones. They have more flavor. But this woman, she's a bit too much. I have my uses for Zhang Mingchen, so don't let your imagination run wild. Qin Lang cautioned, leaving some matters unsaid. Preferences vary. He wouldn't disparage Junzi's tastes, yet he wouldn't indulge them either. As for Fong Yuanyuan, her looks barely reached an 80, and her figure was at best in the 70s. Such a woman would hardly catch Qin Lang's south eye on the street. Besides, she hailed from a wealthy family, which added to his discomfort. He wasn't merely attracted to innocent young girls. Rather, he found Fong Yuanyuan's type unsettling. He would much prefer someone slightly more mature, or perhaps a companion with appealing attributes. As time seemed to drag on, Qin Lang instructed Junzi before stepping out. Keep an eye on things here. If that woman attempts to leave, stop her and ask Zhang Mingchen if he wants to extend his time. If he can handle it, push for more time. He opened the door to the suite and caught a glimpse of the captivating figure disappearing at the end of the corridor. A devilish smile curling at the corners of his lips. This was his first encounter not set against the backdrop of the evening with the Crimson Mandrake. It appears that the bait set last night has indeed been taken by the strikingly beautiful blood-colored mandala. Chapter 113. Perhaps you should practice more with the planetary cup. Following closely behind blood-colored mandala, Qin Lang meandered through several corners before casually stepping into the women's restroom. There he beheld a stunning silhouette standing by the window. She lingered, gazing into the distance, her black corset tightly cinching her slender waist, showcasing her voluptuous figure to full effect. Graceful and alluring, her curves were simply exquisite. A gentle breeze swept through, causing her lustrous black hair to dance in the wind, its delicate strands wafting a subtle fragrance that Qin Lang could sense as he approached. Is it not yet evening, and you are already succumbing? Qin Lang's abrupt remark shattered the tranquil atmosphere, disrupting the picturesque scene that blood-colored mandala had been admiring. She turned her head, revealing a face devoid of any concealment, her peach blossom eyes aflame with indignation. In the presence of Qin Lang, any pretense of aloofness was futile. She spoke candidly, expressing her desire for him to willingly provide the leads her sister sought and to cease troubling her henceforth. Qin Lang raised an eyebrow, a playful smile gracing his lips. Blood-colored mandala seeks to rescue Chinziki from her plight. Although they are not bound by blood, their bond is undeniably profound. Yet what does this concern him? Qin Lang was not one to embody the nature of a benevolent saint. To receive a reward, one must first make a sacrifice. Blood-colored mandala, fully aware of this, clenched her teeth, stating resolutely, I can offer you the reward you seek. Qin Lang seized her outstretched hand, a cold laugh escaping him. Surely, you undervalue my leads? Or perhaps, you overestimate your worth? If I had any such intentions, do you truly believe you would remain unscathed until now? A reward? Is this what blood-colored mandala ought to provide? It seems more akin to a paltry gift. Perhaps, having developed some resistance to the medical supplies at home, she now wishes to explore alternative treatments. And here she is, clamoring for leads, as if such generosity is commonplace. What is it that you desire? Blood-colored mandala retorted, her voice laced with indignation. It seemed that the affluent household was devoid of guests at this hour. Otherwise, it would surely incite a commotion. Hastily, Qin Lang urged, take out your phone. I shall send you a list. Moments later, blood-colored mandala complied, receiving an extensive list that took quite some time to load. Unable to suppress a roll of her eyes, she remarked, are you not bored? Sending this incessantly, is it truly necessary? Could you not simply bring a document? Must you flaunt it? Why not just tell her directly? Qin Lang patiently awaited 2 or 3 minutes until the document finally opened. After a swift review, blood-colored mandala slowly declared, for those on this list, I require you to take some action, particularly with the old man from the Zhou family. It would be best if you could handle this today. These are all supporting characters that Chun Ping has installed to challenge him, each holding a position of significance. Resolving matters with each of them proves to be quite troublesome, and more importantly, exceedingly time-consuming. Would it not be more delightful to devote this energy to playing games with Xiao Xiao at home? It would be far better to entrust such tasks to professionals like Bloodied Mandala. Moreover, the bait was cast last night. The reason for not mentioning it then was to avoid hindrance in the presence of Chunziki. Certain matters, if spoken aloud in her company, would undoubtedly face opposition. However, at this moment, with only Bloodied Mandala present, there are no burdens to bear. Furthermore, her expertise aligns perfectly with the task at hand, making her an ideal candidate. To eliminate all these individuals, Bloodied Mandala exhibited no hesitation, casting a glance at Qin Lang. With a mere word from him, all of them would meet their demise within a day. For someone of her caliber, ranking among the top 3 assassins, a single day would be more than sufficient. A simple application of poison would suffice. Qin Lang, indifferent, retrieved the pre-prepared drugs from his system's backpack and handed them to Bloodied Mandala, instructing her to add a small amount to their food and drink. No more, for excess would result in death. It would be better to allow Chan Ping's fortune to backfire upon him than to directly ruin his chances. Such an outcome would yield even greater value and destiny for him. Bloodied Mandala accepted the medication, stating plainly, I shall proceed immediately. Wait, Qin Lang interjected. Who said this is the entirety of your payment? A cold smirk graced his lips. Bloodied Mandala clenched her silver teeth, exclaiming, you are truly shameless. Merely asking Qin Lang for information, yet he dares to impose such numerous demands. It's as if he holds leverage over her, exploiting the situation to his advantage. Curses aside, the payment owed must still be fulfilled by Bloodied Mandala. Ding! The daughter of fortune, Bloodied Mandala, experienced an outburst of anger. Congratulations to the host for acquiring 500 points of Destiny villain value. After a considerable pause, bloodied Mandala looked up, fear evident in her beautiful eyes. May I leave now? You may, Qin Lang replied, but before you go, I must offer you some words of advice. With a serious tone, he continued, though you are an assassin and assassination is indeed crucial, your own strength must also be cultivated. He retrieved a star-shaped cup obtained from a previous lottery and presented it to her. Bloodied Mandala frowned, perplexed by his antics. Use this for practice in the future. It has quite a pleasing flavor. Just remember not to use a spoon, Qin Lang instructed before returning to the Emperor's private box. Zhang Mingchen had already exited, seated on the sofa with a furrowed brow. Upon hearing the door open, he looked up and, feeling embarrassed, said, Qin Xiao. Qin Lang, with kindness, sat beside him and patted his shoulder. How do you feel? Zhang Mingchen shook his head. Not well at all. She performed alone inside, and I had little interest. Qin Lang's expression turned peculiar as he scrutinized Zhang Mingchen with newfound intrigue. Zhang Mingchen, feeling uneasy under his gaze, quickly explained, it was too dark. Chapter 114, reporting the little specialist Qin Lang, the undercover agent Zhang Mingchen. Qin Lang instinctively furrowed his brow at the mention of betel nut. Zhang Mingchen nodded and shook his head, remarking that it depended on the variety. Some betel nuts were rather pale, almost matching the color of the kernel within. Hiss! Even Qin Lang, upon hearing such a vivid and striking metaphor, could not help but draw in a sharp breath, contributing in his own small way to global warming. Junzi, standing nearby, retracted his neck, thinking that was even more exaggerated than Manager Zhang. Qin Lang cast a sidelong glance at Junzi, urging him to cease his nonsensical chatter. He then turned to Zhang Mingchen and asked plainly, do you still have feelings for her? It was indisputable that Feng Yuan was a promiscuous woman, a narrative that echoed through the original tale, as she worked as a technician in a wealthy household. However, based on Zhang Mingchen's description, it was highly probable that she had already become a heartthrob long before attending university. Zhang Mingchen shook his head in trepidation, exclaiming, I had no idea. Had I known she was such a woman, I would never have pursued a relationship with her. Reflecting on it now sent chills down his spine. Initially, he had felt envy towards Wang Xiao, but now he could only muster some sympathy. It seemed likely that Feng Yuan's eagerness to earn money was an attempt to cleanse her tarnished reputation. Grateful for the insights he had gained, thanks to Qin Lang's assistance, Zhang Mingchen expressed his appreciation. Young Master Qin, I owe you a great debt this time. While I cannot guarantee much else from now on, at your command, I will tirelessly assist you. Ding! The luck of the destined one, Chun Pingyan, decreased by 500 points. Congratulations to the host for acquiring 10,000 villain points. Hearing the system notification, Qin Lang patted Zhang Mingchen on the shoulder with satisfaction. Everything was unspoken between them. This was the very affirmation he sought. While Zhang Mingchen might lack in various areas, his loyalty was unwavering. There's nothing much to it. Just maintain a good relationship with a newly transferred Chen Pingyan in your class and report any of his minor antics to me. That will suffice. Qin Lang issued a few simple directives, and Zhang Mingchen dared not inquire further. Yet, deep within, he resolved to repay young Master Qin in kind. Had it not been for Qin Lang, he shuddered to think of the embarrassing situations he might have subjected himself to for the sake of the promiscuous Feng Yuan. He could have even become a target for Wang Xiao, facing a dismal fate. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. To avoid suspicion, Qin Lang took a leave of absence from class. In contrast, after returning to class, Zhang Mingchen quickly became acquainted with Chun Pingyan, particularly due to the circumstances surrounding his recent breakup. The two soon formed a camaraderie, even walking home together that evening. However, just as they emerged from the school gates onto a secluded path, a group of gangsters with brightly dyed hair intercepted them. The leading thug, neck craned defiantly, pointed towards Chun Pingyan and barked, you better keep your distance from Chu Mingyao next time. This is just a warning. With that, he signaled to his lackeys, coldly commanding, get him. The thugs surged forward, their menacing demeanor on full display, but mere ruffians like them stood no chance against the destined one, Chun Pingyan. They were merely stepping stones, foolishly offering themselves to be humiliated. In a flash, Chun Pingyan dispatched 7 or 8 ruffians, leaving them sprawled on the ground. Some suffered broken bones, while others had fractured arms, as they cried out in agony. Zhang Mingchen, watching from a distance, felt a chill run down his spine. This man was truly terrifying. His strikes were merciless, akin to that of a demon. It was no wonder that Qin Xiao had instructed him to keep a watchful eye. Perhaps he, too, had once faced bullying and sought retribution. With thoughts of Qin Shao's orders in mind, Zhang Mingchen quickly composed a message to send to Qin Lang, while Chen Pingyan interrogated the ruffian leader about the mastermind behind the attack. Qin Shao, Chen Pingyan and I were cornered by some thugs who immediately aimed to assault us. However, Chen Pingyan is fearsome. He single-handedly took down 7 or 8 of them, some even sustaining fractures. Qin Lang swiftly replied, location? East of Tianhai University, south gate of Mingxia apartment parking lot. After sending the message, Zhang Mingchen waited anxiously. But no response came, so he reluctantly stowed his phone away. Before him, Chen Pingyan wore a cold expression, his foot pressing down repeatedly on the face of the ruffian leader as he demanded, "Who sent you? Speak up, or I have 100 ways to make your life a living hell." Given his medical expertise, torturing an ordinary person was a trivial task for him. Especially after witnessing Chen Pingyan's merciless demeanor and brutal strength, the ruffian leader swallowed hard, unable to conceal the truth, stammering, It was Li Minghui. Li Xiao who ordered this. Li Minghui? Chen Pingyan narrowed his eyes. Li Minghui was a scion of the Chu group, his father being a venerable elder within the corporation, holding a significant portion of shares, second only to Chu Mingyao's father. As Chu Mingyao's childhood companion, Li Minghui held her in high regard. Discovering Chen Pingyan, an unwelcome presence by her side, ignited a fury within him, prompting him to seek retribution. In Li Minghui's eyes, Chu Mingyao was destined to be his, and he would never allow anyone to encroach upon what was rightfully his. I am eager to see what tricks you have left, Chen Pingyan mused nonchalantly. Just a mere rich heir. He could easily crush such an opponent. In a fit of frustration, he kicked the ruffian leader's face before returning to Zhang Mingchen's side. Smiling as he said, "Apologies for the trouble I've caused, but they were merely a few petty thugs. I hope I didn't frighten you too much." And no, not at all. Zhang Mingchen hastily shook his head, somewhat intimidated by Chen Pingyan's propensity for explosive violence, while feeling increasingly anxious. Where was Qin Shao's message? What should they do next? Should they simply let Chen Pingyan go? Just as Zhang Mingchen found himself at a loss, the distant sound of a police siren pierced the air, and a blue and white police car sped towards them. With an imposing demeanor, Chen Ziki surveyed the ruffians sprawled on the ground, her expression stony. She then turned her gaze towards Chen Pingyan and his companion, inquiring, "Did you two engage these thugs?" Chen Pingyan, adorned with a smug smile, brazenly shook his head. "It wasn't us two, it was solely my endeavor." His arrogance was palpable, even in front of a formidable female officer like Chen Ziki. This audacity incensed her greatly. "Come with me for an investigation." "All right." Chen Pingyan cheerfully hopped into the police car. Zhang Mingchen, determined to fulfill the orders of Qin Shao, mustered his courage and sat in the police vehicle for the first time. Nonetheless, he couldn't help but ponder the lengths Qin Shao might go to. He had even entertained the absurd fantasy of a sudden onslaught of assassins targeting Chen Pingyan. Yet, he never anticipated that Qin Shao would resort to calling the police. How utterly ridiculous! A wealthy heir, who had taken him to the abode of affluent families, was now seeking the assistance of the police to deal with a mere individual? Chapter 115. Qin Lang released his restraints. The fortunate one, detained, "What is your name?" In a secluded office, Chen Ziki maintained a stern demeanor, fixating her serious gaze upon Chen Pingyan. Her icy countenance even startled Zhang Mingchen, who sat behind her, prompting him to sit up straight. However, Chen Pingyan remained unfazed, chuckling. "Didn't we meet recently? Have you forgotten me so soon?" His gaze shamelessly roved over Chen Ziki, recalling how he had taken note of her striking beauty and impressive figure during his previous encounter. Even when compared to Chu Mingyao, she was undeniably captivating. Upon their reunion, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fate and began to flirt unabashedly. The so-called fortunate one merely bore the weight of great fortune, yet his character was all too human, particularly in his fondness for beautiful women. This was especially true for Chen Pingyan, as depicted in the original narrative. Chen Ziki huffed coldly. "Behave yourself." She was thoroughly displeased, outraged even. It was one thing to be bullied by Qin Lang, but to have a mere university student disregard her authority was utterly intolerable. Regardless of the circumstances, those ruffians had sustained severe injuries and were currently hospitalized, some with broken bones. Thus, he must bear the consequences. At the very least, he would be detained for one night. In a fit of anger, Chen Ziki slammed the record board onto the table. Indifferent, Chen Pingyan picked it up, stood, and extended it towards her, his hand hovering tantalizingly close to her luscious lips. "Sit down." With a sharp slap, Chen Ziki swatted his hand away. She never imagined that this university student would attempt to take advantage of her. And with such practiced finesse, had it not been for her heightened sensitivity to taste from consuming special dairy products recently, she might have fallen prey to his advances. Don't be so tense. How about we make a wager? Chun Pingan wore a smile on his face, the corners of his mouth curled in a teasing manner. You insist that I must stay today, yet I feel otherwise. If I were truly detained, you could subject me to any form of interrogation you wished. But should I be released, I only require one condition from you. The same old routine. It is merely an opportunity for Chun Ziki to establish a connection. If it weren't for the matter concerning Qin Lang, Chun Ziki might have angrily acquiesced. However, having suffered too many setbacks at the hands of Qin Lang, she grew wary. Reminding herself of her position, you are merely a suspect. Are you too afraid to gamble? Chun Pingan appeared utterly composed, as if he held all the cards. No sooner had he spoken than the office door swung open, revealing the deputy director of the precinct, his expression dark with displeasure. Chun Ziki, what on earth are you doing? Why are you apprehending people indiscriminately? Chun Ziki, inherently strong-willed, stood her ground even in the presence of the deputy director, retorting defiantly, how am I apprehending people indiscriminately? This individual has severely injured 7 or 8 people. Upon receiving the report, am I supposed to turn a blind eye? The deputy director's demeanor soured further. I just received a call from Mr. Chu of the Chu Group detailing the situation. Mr. Chun Pingan acted in legitimate self-defense. It does not constitute intentional harm. Moreover, Mr. Chu is willing to cover the medical expenses. Release him. Release him? Again, we are to release him? Chun Ziki glared furiously at the seemingly relaxed Chun Pingan, feeling an unsettling sense of DJVU. She could not apprehend Qin Lang due to a lack of evidence. Yet now, with irrefutable proof of Chun Pingan's assault, was she truly powerless to act? Just as Chun Ziki's anger threatened to erupt, Zhang Mingchen, the second individual to provide a statement, sat in the back row, leaning against the partition, and discreetly pulled out his phone to compose a message. Damn, young Master Qin. Chun Pingan is incredible. He has the backing of the president of the Chu Group. Even after severely injuring someone, he faces no repercussions. The deputy director has already ordered his release. As soon as the message was sent, a reply arrived instantly. 2 words. Wait. Zhang Mingchen pocketed his phone, waiting silently, while Chun Pingan, seated in front, wore a knowing smile as he scrutinized Chun Ziki, mockingly saying, it seems you've lost the wager. Before the deputy director, he maintained his carefree demeanor. After all, prior to arriving at the precinct, he had already contacted Mr. Chu, with Mr. Chu's influence. Extricating him would be effortless and enjoyable. Furthermore, what did he have to fear? Are we truly letting him go, unable to apprehend him? Reflecting on Qin Lang, for reasons unknown, especially as she observed Chun Pingan's nonchalant demeanor, Chun Ziki felt an inexplicable surge of frustration. Just then, commotion erupted outside the office, and a middle-aged man in plain clothes entered. What's going on? Making such a racket? Is this how your precinct conducts investigations? The man's cold snort exuded authority, his fierce gaze imposing even without anger. Single-minded Chun Ziki saw a potential savior in him and quickly recounted the entire situation. The deputy director felt a surge of trepidation, utterly unprepared for the unexpected visit from the chief of the municipal bureau in Tianhai City, who had come for an undercover inspection. Such occurrences were seldom seen, almost a rarity, and not a whisper of news had preceded it. Director Zhang was merely exercising legitimate self-defense, yet the deputy director was engulfed in anxiety. The middle-aged man snorted, asserting that procedures must be followed. Those who required detention would be detained, and compensations made where necessary. After stating this, he did not forget to give a thumbs up to Chun Ziki, commending her for her steadfastness and integrity, rather than merely occupying a position and shrinking back. With a glare at the deputy director, the middle-aged man departed as quickly as he had arrived. Chun Pingan found the situation utterly absurd. An undercover visit? An inspection in plain clothes? Surely this was orchestrated specifically for him. Who, then, was the puppet master pulling the strings from behind the scenes? Was it that scoundrel Li Minghui again? Chun Pingan seethed with rage, feeling utterly undone. In the back, Zhang Mingchen retrieved his phone and swiftly composed a text. Qin Xiao, Chun Pingan is in quite the predicament. Initially, the deputy director was about to release him, but with the unexpected appearance of higher-ups for an inspection, his overnight detention has now stretched into several days. Meanwhile, at Tianhai University, within the faculty dormitory, Lin Sierra felt a hand resting against her lower back drawing a sharp intake of breath. Stammering, she murmured, "Brother Qin, your hand is misplaced." Chapter 116. Lin Sierra, startled, turned pale. A notification chimed. The chosen one, Chun Pingyan, has experienced a decline in fortune by 500 points. Congratulations, host. You have acquired 10,000 villain points. Qin Lang chuckled at the message sent by Zhang Mingchen. Since Chun Pingyan had been apprehended, it would be prudent for him to remain detained for a few days, allowing Qin to manage his own affairs with ease. As for the reason behind the chief's personal visit, it was quite evident. He had summoned him. There was no need for Zhang Mingchen's real-time updates. When Qin Ziki had taken the individual away, Qin had already utilized his connections to reach Director Zhang. Unfamiliar? Never met? That mattered little. Networks of influence do not necessitate personal encounters. The phenomenon of connections being passed from person to person is quite commonplace. Otherwise, how could Qin Ziki's limited capabilities achieve anything substantial? It was more likely that, in a fit of frustration, she would inadvertently secure Chun Pingyan's release. Brother Qin. Lin Sierra's voice was laced with bashfulness. Having called out a second time, she began to wonder if he was deliberately taking liberties. What's wrong? Qin Lang feigned ignorance. Tucking away his phone, noticing where his hand had been, he quickly withdrew it, awkwardly apologizing. "My apologies, I was momentarily distracted and took advantage of the situation." "And no problem," Lin Sierra replied, her cheeks flushed. "I truly apologize, Brother Qin. You're so busy today, yet you still made the effort to come and give me acupuncture. It must have delayed your own matters." Qin Lang smiled, knowing that his absence during the day was merely to avoid suspicion, fearing that Chun Pingyan might discover his connection with Zhang Mingchen. However, in Lin Sierra's heart, her thoughts were quite different. She understood that Brother Qin was busy, often too preoccupied to spare a moment. Yet, he tirelessly came in the evening to administer acupuncture for her. It would be utterly impossible to claim that she was not moved by this gesture of friendship. Let the misunderstandings persist. Qin Lang could perceive Lin Sierra's subtle feelings and was indifferent to being misinterpreted. He waved his hand dismissively, saying, "It's all right. I may be busy, but your legs require treatment. No matter how occupied I am, I must make time for you." "Brother Qin," Lin Sierra stammered, her cheeks flushing. Qin Lang, seated on the bed, inquired curiously, "What's the matter?" After a moment of contemplation, Lin Sierra shook her head. "It's nothing, really." She felt somewhat absurd for having considered asking Brother Qin if he enjoyed touching. If he did, what would she do? Would she allow him to touch her backside? How embarrassing. The mere thought was laughable. Shameless. Lin Sierra scolded herself inwardly. At that moment, Zhou Zhiqing, having just concluded her tasks, entered wearing a white t-shirt and a black bodycon skirt. Adjusting her glasses, she glanced at Lin Sierra, who was panting with sweat, and asked with a smile, "Is the acupuncture done?" Qin Lang nodded just in time. "If it weren't for this available room, I might still be on my way back." "Qin Lang, I've given you ample face, yet you seem to disregard my words." Zhou Zhiqing approached, her gentle, watery eyes scrutinizing Qin Lang. "I recall mentioning last night that today is Monday, correct? You haven't forgotten the day of the week, have you? Meanwhile, that fellow named Chun Pingyan has already blended in, and you only arrive at this late hour? I was delayed by some matters today, but if you insist, I suppose I should emulate that fellow Chun Pingyan." Qin Lang thought it amusing. That guy was detained and would likely be incarcerated for several days. Who knew when he would be released? That is more like it. Given your willingness to amend your mistakes, I shall let this slide. Zhou Zhiqing smiled, playfully teasing him. Then, turning her attention to Lin Sierra, she expressed concern. "Sierra, I heard that Huang Wenbin confessed to you again today, in such a small place. Any event is quickly observed. A mere whisper can spread like wildfire among gossipers." Zhou Zhiqing was aware of the situation and bore no ill will. Lin Sierra nodded. "I have clearly rejected him, yet he shows no signs of giving up. Sierra, be cautious. If you're not picked up by your parents tonight, just let me know, and I will drive you home," Zhou Zhiqing advised earnestly. It wasn't mere overthinking. Huang Wenbin's reputation was indeed questionable. The infamous 4 young masters of Tianhai, including Wang Xiao and Li Xiao, are notorious for their misdeeds, of which there are countless, even in the confines of the office. Zhou Zhiqing has heard whispers of their transgressions. However, due to their formidable family backgrounds and the significant connections involved, their wrongdoings have been conveniently suppressed. Initially, Zhou Zhiqing believed that Huang Wenbin's interest was merely a fleeting whim, a bet among his dubious companions. Yet, his second public confession has exceeded her expectations. Huang Wenbin has employed despicable tactics in his pursuit of women on multiple occasions, even leading to tragic outcomes, such as unplanned pregnancies that resulted in heart-wrenching decisions. Is it true? I've never heard of such things. Lin Sierra recoiled in fear. Zhou Zhiqing, adopting a serious demeanor, replied, Sierra, your reticence has left you out of the loop. You hardly engage with anyone, hence your ignorance of such reports. Unlike me, who frequently hears tales of the 4 young masters in the office, each one more contemptible than the last. Huang Wenbin is a prime example, having once threatened a girl using his parents' influence. Despite her refusal, the threat to her family's livelihood forced her into submission, leading to a tragic fate. My mother said she won't be able to pick me up tonight. Lin Sierra stammered, visibly anxious. Zhou Zhiqing gently tapped Lin Sierra's forehead, smiling with affection. Do not fear. It might just be a rumor. After all, I have not witnessed anything firsthand. However, if you are scared, I shall escort you home. Ahem. Qin Lung, who had been quietly observing, cleared his throat, casting a sidelong glance before straightening his posture to face the white wall, clearing his throat again. Zhou Zhiqing felt a playful impulse, glancing at Qin Lang with a teasing tone. Are you unwell? I happen to have some cold medicine. Lin Sierra hurriedly interjected. Please do not tease Brother Qin. He has good intentions. She turned to Qin Lang, her concern evident. Brother Qin, are you planning to take me home? I thought you had matters to attend to. Qin Lang shrugged. I cannot let her take you home. She can hardly safeguard herself. Zhou Zhiqing reflected on how she met Qin Lang, unable to suppress a smile. After a brief conversation, it was ultimately decided that Qin Lang would take on the responsibility of escorting Lin Sierra home, guiding the electric wheelchair with ease. Qin Lang placed his hand on the handles, steering toward the noodle shop while engaging Lin Sierra in lively conversation. They reminisced about the past and contemplated the future. Typically reserved, Lin Sierra transformed into a lively songbird in Qin Lang's presence, chattering incessantly, while Qin Lang responded with genuine interest. Upon reaching the street of the snack shop, Lin Sierra noticed a crowd gathered near her home, and through the gaps in the throng, she glimpsed the vandalized folding tables and chairs, her face instantly drained of color. Chapter 117. The helpless Lin Sierra mother and daughter, Huang Wenbin's malevolent scheme. Brother Qin. Hurry please, Lin Sierra urged in a state of panic. Qin Lang was well aware of her distress. Immediately, he steadied her shoulder and quickened his pace, dashing forward. The tires screeched against the pavement, and in order to prevent Lin Sierra from falling, Qin Lang had to firmly grasp her shoulder. Pushing through the bustling crowd, they finally caught sight of the unfolding scene in detail. Outside and inside the noodle shop, several burly thugs were viciously smashing the folding tables and chairs, even wrecking the refrigerator, all while spewing curses. Damn it, my brother ate noodles here and ended up with a stomachache. You filthy merchants, how can you be so unhygienic? You still have the nerve to keep your doors open. What a joke, destroy everything. Lin Sierra's father desperately clung to one thug's arm, pleading, our shop is truly clean. This must be a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding my ass. Get the hell out of here. The thug slapped Lin Sierra's father away, relentlessly vandalizing the noodle shop's belongings. Who the hell sent you to do this? Our noodle shop has been operating for nearly a decade without a single case of food poisoning. You bastards. Just wait, I'll call the police. Lin Sierra's mother, tears streaming down her face, began to curse furiously, hastily pulling out her phone to dial the authorities. Suddenly, a thug charged at her, ready to strike. Just then, Qin Lang swiftly intervened, delivering a kick that sent the thug sprawling. Mr. Qin, how did you get here? Lin Sierra's mother stared at the suddenly appearing Qin Lang, momentarily dazed. Her heart was heavy with concern for the battered noodle shop, the very foundation of their family's livelihood. She had not even noticed the crowd surrounding them until this moment, realizing that her daughter had been returned by Qin Lang. Uncle Aunt, please stop crying and don't worry about calling the police. Let them destroy it. Qin Lang beckoned Lin Sierra's parents to his side. Seeing one of their own being attacked, the thugs initially thought to retaliate, but upon noticing Qin Lang, they hesitated. He did not seem like someone who could fight. Yet the air of nobility he exuded indicated he was not from an ordinary background, far surpassing the status of the one who had instigated them, Huang Xiao. What are you staring at? Keep smashing. Qin Lang urged the thugs with a dismissive wave of his hand. Lin Sierra's parents were taken aback. Mr. Qin, how can you allow them to destroy our shop? This is our family's only source of income. The Lin family was not wealthy, yet they were certainly not destitute. However, due to their daughter's leg condition, they frequently needed to visit the hospital for therapy, and their ability to afford these expenses relied entirely on the noodle shop. If it were to be destroyed, their family's livelihood would be in jeopardy. Qin Lang smiled reassuringly, saying, it's all right. They are not worth our concern. Even if they cause damage, they will have to compensate. Why bother arguing with them? After all, they're merely a bunch of insignificant pests. The real troublemakers are not among them. As he spoke, Qin Lang patted Lin Siener's shoulder and pointed in a direction. Lin Sierra followed his gaze and was instantly struck with shock. It was Huang Wenbin. How could it be him? Connecting the dots with the earlier news she had heard in Fang Zhiqing's apartment, it felt as though a thread had woven everything together. The noodle shop lay in ruins, and a few thugs departed, cursing under their breath. They were quite satisfied, having anticipated the arrival of the police midway through their rampage. Yet, to their surprise, they completed their task without interruption, reveling in their apparent freedom. They believed that, at worst, they would be detained for a few days before walking away with a handsome reward. As they distanced themselves, they ceased their raucous performance and began to laugh and joke with one another. Little did they know that what awaited them was not the police, but the merciless blood-red mandala. "Oh, my noodle shop!" Lin Siener's mother cried, wiping her tears in distress. Lin Tianlin watched from the side, feeling equally troubled. He wanted to intervene, but there were too many adversaries around, and he felt increasingly stifled. The crowd that had gathered to watch soon dispersed. At that moment, Huang Wenbin approached, clad in conspicuous designer attire emblazoned prominently across his chest. With a smirk, he gazed at Lin Sierra in her wheelchair and jested, "Sierra, what has happened at your home? Even the noodle shop has been destroyed?" Seated in her wheelchair, Lin Siener's face twisted with indignation. "You had someone do this, didn't you? Huang Wenbin, I never imagined you to be such a person." Huang Wenbin shook his head, saying, "Sierra, you cannot speak so recklessly. How could you accuse me of orchestrating this? I would never stoop to such deeds." He was not foolish enough to admit his involvement, even if everyone suspected him. As long as those ruffians did not implicate him, who could provide evidence? "Sierra, I see that your family is not particularly well off. How will you manage without the noodle shop? Why not allow me to take care of you?" Lin Sierra clenched her teeth, her anger boiling over as she retorted, "In your dreams. That is impossible. I will never agree to that. Whoever destroyed the noodle shop, we will report them to the police, and they will be made to compensate us. We can reopen again." Huang Wenbin clapped his hands in mock admiration, exclaiming, "Well said. Such spirit. But what if those thugs are all deadbeats? Even if the police compel them to pay, what if they have no money? Can you sell their kidneys?" He chuckled. This was not the first time he had employed such tactics. He had cycled through countless deadbeats, each time reaping rewards. A mere young girl dare to challenge him? After twice being rejected, was she not forcing his hand? Huang Wenbin's gaze brazenly swept over Lin Siener's delicate, fair legs. Genuinely intrigued by how a girl with such disabilities could possess such beautiful legs. This warranted further examination indeed. How can you be so shameless? Lin Sierra was momentarily taken aback, as were her parents, who had not anticipated such a turn of events. How could they seek compensation if a deadbeat had vandalized their restaurant? Even if that group of deadbeats were imprisoned for a decade or two, what difference would it make? Their family's livelihood, the noodle shop, was gone. Moreover, could several of them truly serve years behind bars? As they gazed at the grinning Huang Wenbin, the Lin family felt an unsettling chill run down their spines. Such a young age, yet so cunning. Suddenly, Qin Lang sighed, looking at Huang Wenbin with a pitying expression, much like one would regard a forlorn dog about to be cast out of its home. "Oh, foolish child, how can you be so mischievous? If your father discovers this, he might just skin you alive." Chapter 118. Qin Lang's commentary. "Boss Huang, who do you think you are? What does this situation have to do with you?" Huang Wenbin furrowed his brow, irritated with Qin Lang, but wary of provoking him further. Little did he know, he had yet to make trouble, and Qin Lang had already sought him out instead. How could he endure this? What had Huang Wenbin ever been bullied? "Is this your boyfriend?" Huang Wenbin sneered, pointing at Qin Lang while casting a hostile glance at Lin Sierra. Lin Sierra shot him an angry glare but remained silent, unsure whether to tacitly acknowledge him or to dismiss such a despicable character altogether. "Damn it, you filthy whore," Huang Wenbin cursed, brazenly disrespectful in front of Lin Sierra's parents, as if he believed she had never been touched by anyone, only to find out she was just another tarnished soul. Lin Sierra felt her eyes redden at his words. How could such a shameless person exist? Just because she rejected his advances, he had resorted to vandalizing her family's restaurant, and now, with the issue unresolved, he was hurling such vicious insults at her before Lin Sierra could respond. Qin Lang stepped forward and delivered a resounding slap to Huang Wenbin's face. Almost instantly, his left cheek began to swell visibly. "How dare you hit me?" Huang Wenbin shouted, clutching his face, his anger boiling over as expletives spilled from his lips. Qin Lang retaliated with another slap, and soon both sides of Huang Wenbin's face bore the same size of swelling. With a sigh of relief, Qin Lang felt a sense of comfort wash over him. Otherwise, the asymmetry had been quite unsettling. Just you wait. Huang Wenbin, having witnessed Qin Lang effortlessly dispatch a large man, understood that this individual was formidable. Rather than confront him, he reached for his phone to call for help. However, Qin Lang swiftly snatched the phone away, unlocking it with Huang Wenbin's fingerprint as if it were a mere chick, then opened the contacts and dialed a number, placing the phone on speaker near Huang Wenbin's ear. Speak quickly if you have something to say. I'm busy. On the other end of the line, Huang Cheng's voice was filled with irritation. Huang Wenbin glared at Qin Lang before biting his lip. He had initially intended to resolve the matter himself without informing his father. However, now he had changed his mind. If Qin Lang sought death, then so be it. Dad, I've been attacked. Hurry and bring people to rescue me at the Lin family's noodle shop on the snack street. Damn it, who dares to touch my bloodline? Just wait. I'll be there shortly. The call ended abruptly, leaving a tone of silence in its wake. Huang Wenbin's eyes were bloodshot with rage as he shouted at Qin Lang. When my father arrives, you're as good as dead. Out of pity for your impending doom, I won't strike you just yet. Consider this a moment of calm before the storm. Qin Lang shrugged, dismissing Huang Wenbin's threats. This individual was merely a source of enmity, a pawn to showcase the misfortune of the fortunate. There was no need for further discourse. The focus lay on Huang Cheng. Otherwise, why would one need such elaborate means to deal with a mere Huang Wenbin? Brother Qin, will everything be all right? The Huang family is quite influential and not to be trifled with. Lin Sierra expressed her concerns, anxious that Qin Lang might encounter trouble. Qin Lang affectionately ruffled her hair, which had the potential for a lovely ponytail, and reassured her, fear not, I shall handle everything. He then turned to Lin Tianlin and his wife, uncle and aunt. Please calculate how much it would cost to repair this establishment. The real benefactor is about to arrive. Before long, a burly middle-aged man, accompanied by no fewer than 20 bodyguards, stormed toward the snack street, radiating fury. The leading figure was none other than Huang Cheng, whose wealth had been built on a reputation for being bold and ruthless. His temper was notoriously volatile. Upon learning of his son's assault, he had abandoned all thoughts of attending his meeting and rushed over to confront the situation. Dad, this is the one who hit me. Huang Wenbin pointed furiously at Qin Lang, their gazes locking in anger. Huang Cheng, initially brimming with rage, couldn't help but twitch his mouth upon seeing Qin Lang standing next to Lin Sierra. He swiftly turned and slapped his son across the face, exclaiming, Shut your mouth. Are you seeking death? You dare provoke young Master Qin? Do you wish to perish? Huang Wenbin covered his stinging cheek, a sense of foreboding washing over him. He realized that Qin Lang was not someone to be trifled with. How could he not retaliate after being attacked? Summoning his father not only failed to chastise Qin Lang, but instead earned him a resounding slap. Even a fool could see that Qin Lang's stature was far greater than he had imagined. Young Master Qin, my sincerest apologies for this misunderstanding. It is all a grave mistake. Children can be ignorant. Please do not take offense. Let this matter go. Huang Cheng had previously attended the summit, and, although he had not directly interacted with Qin Lang, he had observed him from afar. This was a guest whom even the esteemed Tang Xiao treated with utmost respect. How could he dare to provoke him? Lin Mu swallowed hard, her expression a mix of astonishment as she gazed at Qin Lang. Recognizing Qin Lang's noble status, one could hardly anticipate that merely his presence would render Huang Chenglian, accompanied by more than 20 bodyguards, utterly motionless, especially upon witnessing his son transformed into a pitiful state. How much for this establishment? I shall compensate. Huang Cheng hastily inquired about Lin Sierra's parents. Smash the restaurant? Such tactics were not unfamiliar to him. Who else could it be but his own son, who had inherited his true legacy? Lin Tianlin stammered, his words barely escaping his lips, when Huang Cheng promptly agreed. Very well. 3 million it is. I shall transfer it to you shortly. Lin Tianlin was taken aback, for he had not sought 3 million, but rather 30,000. Nonetheless, he pondered that after years of running the family noodle shop and gaining some notoriety, the compensation should not merely reflect the apparent losses, which made him hesitate momentarily. Little did he know, Huang Cheng would initiate the sum at 3 million. Not only was Lin Tianlin shocked, but Lin Sierra and her mother were equally astounded. Meanwhile, Huang Wenbin, observing from the back, felt a surge of dissatisfaction, yet recognized his father's behavior as a manifestation of fear towards Qin Lang. Confronting Qin Lang, he lacked the audacity, redirecting all resentment onto the Lin family. his eyes flashing with a hint of malice. Mr. Huang, are you attempting to compensate more generously in hopes of burying this matter? Qin Lang remarked with a smirk. Huang Cheng, wearing a fawning expression, replied, Young Master Qin, the child truly lacks understanding. He is my only son. I implore your magnanimity to be lenient. I am willing to offer tenfold compensation. Just please do not hold this against the child. Come here. Qin Lang beckoned as he entered the disordered noodle shop, which lay in a state of chaos yet still had navigable spaces. Huang Cheng obediently approached, his gaze fixated on the images on Qin Lang's phone, his eyes immediately reddening. Qin Lang poked at a photo on his phone, chuckling coldly. Mr. Huang, your wife is quite well preserved. Her complexion is rather fair, isn't it? Huang Cheng's countenance shifted between hues of green and purple. Any man would feel discomfort at the sight of his wife's photo in another's possession, especially one as rugged as Huang Cheng, a quintessential Iron Man. He suppressed his fury, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not contain his agitation. Even when facing Qin Lang, his tone grew increasingly abrasive. It was not that he wished to confront Qin Lang physically. Rather, it was a soul-crushing blow. His facial muscles trembled, and he stammered, Young Master Qin. Isn't this a bit excessive? Qin Lang chuckled. Mr. Huang, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. I am not that kind of person. He understood that individuals like Huang Cheng, who had risen from humble beginnings, had once experienced financial struggles. In their worldview, why spend 500 on 4 servings of stale pickles when one could indulge in a 2,000 yuan young beauty? Such rough-hewn businessmen often lived frugally, with some even becoming so accustomed to saving that they had developed a fondness for stale pickles. However, Qin Lang, with a faint smile, remarked that there was no need for embarrassment. He revealed that he possessed a wealth of information, of which the person before him was merely one among many. Certainly not the only one. The purpose of his call today was not to seek reparations, but rather to impart some crucial news, ensuring that the recipient would not remain in ignorance until death, unknowingly nurturing another's offspring. Huang Cheng raised his gaze, suspicion and concealed anger gleaming in his eyes. He found Qin Lang to be rather intimidating, especially given that he possessed private photographs of his wife. The extent of his information network was unfathomable. Yet now, this man was also weaving a narrative involving his son. Was that not a tad excessive? Do not doubt it, Qin Lang declared, swiping through the images on his phone. One by one, the photographs materialized. The same female figure remained constant, but the male counterparts varied. A young lad here, a portly middle-aged man there, and most appallingly, an odious dark-skinned brute. Huang Cheng's expression darkened. Over the years, he had been engrossed in corporate affairs, frequently engaging in social gatherings, neglecting his wife at home. Little did he anticipate that she might be leading a more extravagant life than his own. With a deep breath, Huang Cheng resolved to confront his wife upon returning home. Though he felt little inclination to address his son, he blandly expressed gratitude to Qin Lang for revealing such a scandalous character, promising to rectify matters at home. Qin Lang frowned, sensing that Huang Cheng was still adamant in his belief that Huang Wenbin was his biological son. It was a pity, for Huang Wenbin was a cunning individual, and after this ordeal, he would certainly not spare Lin Xier and her family, while Qin Lang could easily intervene and eliminate him. He wondered why he should not seize this opportunity, which could render Huang Cheng indebted to him, a favor he could exploit in the near future. It appeared that Huang Cheng harbored doubts about his words. Qin Lang, while deftly manipulating his phone, inquired further. Huang Cheng forced a smile, asserting that Qin Lang's thoughts were unfounded. Wenbin bears an uncanny resemblance to me. How could there be any other possibilities? Have you conducted a paternity test? After all, many share similar features. As he spoke, Qin Lang presented his phone to Huang Cheng. The image displayed Huang Cheng's wife once more, but this time, the man engaged with her was different. He bore a striking resemblance to Huang Cheng, yet was undoubtedly not him. You little rascal! You little rascal! I shall have his life! Upon seeing the photograph, particularly the man within it, Huang Cheng erupted in fury. The man in the photo was none other than his own nephew. This scoundrel, he had elevated him to a high position within the company, allowing him to bask in prosperity, yet this wretch dared to betray him with his wife. Under normal circumstances, Huang Cheng would not have questioned his son's paternity. But now, with his nephew implicated, he could no longer dismiss the possibility, due to the striking resemblance between him and his nephew. And, considering the era in which Huang Cheng lived, it was commonplace for families to have numerous children, with an age gap of up to 20 years between the eldest and the youngest. This particular nephew of Huang Cheng was born to his eldest sister and was merely 2 years his junior. If indeed, 2 decades ago, his wife had engaged in an affair with his nephew. Huang Wenbin might genuinely harbor suspicions. Qin Lang, sensing Huang Cheng's unease, administered a potent remark. Mr. Huang, individuals like you, often indulging in extramarital affairs for excitement or maintaining mistresses, clearly lacked proper precautions, didn't you? After all these years, do you have an illegitimate child? The revelation struck Huang Cheng like a thunderclap, leaving his mind momentarily blank, a mix of trepidation and regret washing over him, as cold sweat began to trickle down his back. Do not fear. This is a malady that can be treated. However, the priority is not merely healing, but safeguarding your hard-earned legacy from falling into the hands of outsiders. Qin Lang sighed, patting Huang Cheng on the shoulder before departing. After some time, Huang Cheng emerged, instructing his secretary to transfer a substantial sum of 5 million to Lin Tianlin's mobile account, before making his way toward his son. Huang Wenbin stood rigidly, resentment simmering within him. As his father approached, he murmured, "Dad, what exactly is this guy's background? You taught me that one must never be at a disadvantage. Even if we cannot best this fellow, we must find another opportunity to retaliate against Lin Shear. Otherwise, I cannot bear this humiliation." Huang Cheng turned back, casting a cold, piercing glance at Huang Wenbin, his eyes flickering with intensity. Drawing a baton from one of the bodyguards accompanying him, he advanced toward Huang Wenbin, who had yet to utter a word, and struck him fiercely, exclaiming, "I'll be damned if I let you destroy anything. You wretched scoundrel, I'll make you regret this." With all his might, he brought the baton down, drawing blood instantly. His fury was palpable. Before Qin Lang's insinuation, he had firmly believed Huang Wenbin was his biological son, but now, awakened to the unsettling truth, he found himself increasingly disturbed, especially by the uncanny resemblance of Huang Wenbin's mouth to that of his nephew's. As he continued to strike with fervor, Huang Wenbin cried out, "Please, Dad, spare me. No more." His head a bloody mess. Lin Shear's mother recoiled slightly, whispering, with such fervor, "Could he not be your own flesh and blood? Take him to the Jiangwan villa," commanded Huang Cheng to his subordinates with a cold demeanor, leaving without a backward glance. He had pressing matters to attend to, and no time to deal with this wretch. Bloodied and battered, Huang Wenbin waved frantically, "Dad, Father, please don't abandon me. I am terrified." His pleas transformed into a desperate howl, ultimately drowned out as the bodyguards forcibly dragged him away, leaving behind a lingering echo of his cries. Observing this scene, Qin Lang couldn't help but marvel at the unfolding drama. The Lin family, trailing behind, nodded silently in agreement. At that moment, a notification pinged on Lin Tianlin's phone. Upon opening it, he discovered a message indicating that a sum had been credited to his account. He mentally counted the figures: 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million. Lin Tianlin was astounded. 5 million had been deposited. He had assumed that Huang Cheng's promise was merely a pretext, and that the actual compensation would require negotiation. Yet, to his astonishment, the funds had already arrived at this very moment. "What are you staring at?" Zhao Mingwei rolled her eyes and stepped forward to glance at her husband's phone. A sharp intake of breath escaped her lips as her pupils dilated in disbelief. She turned to look at the noodle shop they had operated for many years, her thoughts becoming increasingly peculiar. Should they renovate the shop, summon Huang Wenbin, and confront him once more? Otherwise, she felt uneasy about possessing such a sum. "Mr. Qin, the 5 million compensation Huang Cheng mentioned has been credited," Lin Tianlin stated. He was not a man driven by greed. His daughter was a testament to that. If an ordinary family were to encounter a daughter with congenital disabilities, one could only speculate whether they would abandon her. The likelihood of them pursuing a second child would be almost certain. Yet, Lin Tianlin did not entertain such thoughts. He even refrained from mentioning the possibility of having another child to spare his daughter any distress. The notion of 5 million was extravagant. While it was true that their noodle shop had been vandalized, even accounting for various damages, the total losses would barely amount to 5 or 600,000. Why would they need so much money? "Mr. Qin, how about we take 50,000 this time, and you can keep the remaining 450,000? Lin Tianlin proposed earnestly. Although relinquishing 450,000 seemed considerable, the 50,000 retained would suffice to repair the noodle shop, leaving them with a substantial amount as well. Qin Lang chuckled inwardly. The total sum was 5 million. He would take 450,000, while the Lin family would retain 50,000, a 91 split. The address of Mr. Qin made it clear he couldn't escape that identity. Who was it referring to? The Qin Lang who had been captured before crossing over was certainly not him. "Uncle, Auntie, please refrain from constantly calling me Mr. I am now classmates with Shi." You may call me Qin Lang, or just Lil Qin. There's no need for such formality. Qin Lang smiled gently. As for this money, I did not intend to claim it. Consider the surplus as compensation for emotional distress from Huang Sheng and his son. Besides, given the state of your shop, it wouldn't reflect well. Use this money to open a larger noodle shop, and if you find it overwhelming, hire a few people. This way, you'll also have more time to spend with Shier, won't you? Lin Tianlin felt a bit uncomfortable with the thought of accepting such money. Zhao Mingyue tugged at his arm, urging him, let us go inside. There is no need to discuss this out here, as if we're afraid no one knows we're wealthy. Aren't you worried about thieves? The family of three returned indoors, engaged in discussion. Meanwhile, Qin Lang chose not to involve himself and retreated to Lin Shier's bedroom. After a while, Lin Shier, seated in her electric wheelchair, opened the door and then closed it behind her, moving closer to Qin Lang, her cheeks slightly flushed. Uncertain of the conversation that transpired between Lin Tianlin and Zhao Mingyue, the young girl became somewhat flustered. She stammered, Brother Qin, I just discussed with my parents, and this sum is truly excessive. We shouldn't accept such a large amount. However, since you refused to take the money, my parents suggested using it to open a large noodle shop, with you as a shareholder, receiving annual commissions. Would that be agreeable? Of course, Qin Lang replied, not wishing to linger on the matter. Let it be settled then. I hope the new Lin family noodle shop flourishes soon. Lin Sierra nodded emphatically. The room fell into silence, neither of them speaking. Lin Sierra tilted her head slightly, discreetly observing Qin Lang from the corner of her eye, scrutinizing him from chin to lips, and as their gazes met, she quickly averted her eyes, her cheeks reddening even further. Qin Lang, bemused, touched his face and chuckled. What is the matter? Nervously, Lin Sierra stammered, Brother Qin, why are you so kind to me? Had it not been for Qin Lang today, her family might have faced grave misfortune, and he was so unwilling to accept that substantial sum of money. How could such kindness be without reason? Reflecting on her parents' words, Lin Sierra couldn't help but ponder the implications. What do you think, you silly girl? Qin Lang shifted closer to Lin Sierra, reaching out to caress her hair with a tender expression, yet hesitating to articulate his thoughts. Such a scoundrel. This phrase could lead to various interpretations, such as, what do you think, you silly girl? It's simply that I am wealthy and enjoy being playful. Or perhaps, what do you think, you silly girl? It's because I care for you. A single additional phrase could entirely alter the meaning. It was evident that Lin Sierra's imagination gravitated towards the latter. Her head lowered in embarrassment, nearly burying her face in his comforting embrace. However, after a while, reflecting on her legs caused her sadness to resurface. Frustrated, she tapped her wheelchair, lamenting, if only I could walk, if only this wheelchair didn't exist. Were it not for the wheelchair, had she been able to stand, she would be just like anyone else, possibly even able to be with Brother Qin. The more Lin Sierra dwelled on this, the more aggrieved she felt. She had thought she had grown accustomed to her wheelchair, yet now realized it was simply because she had not encountered someone who made her yearn to stand. Now that she had met Brother Qin, she began to regret her uncooperative legs. Qin Lang comforted her, saying, do not be upset. It's all right. As I've mentioned, your legs will surely heal, and you will stand again. Moreover, though you are seated in this wheelchair now, there is no reason you cannot recline comfortably upon it. Chapter 121. Overindulgence after her legs undergo surgery. It is certain that she will require some time for rehabilitation exercises. Qin Lang believes that the scenarios he has envisioned are exceptionally suitable for the maintenance of leg muscles. They not only allow for personal exercise, but also bring joy to others. How could such an understanding young lady like Lin Sierra not wish to accommodate him? After chatting for a while, under the watchful eyes of the family, Qin Lang departed from the street of snacks. Zhao Mingyue stood at the entrance, poked her husband in his arm, and raised an eyebrow, saying, I told you so, this child Qin Lang is likely fond of our Sierra. Otherwise, why would he go to such lengths for her, assisting with her leg treatment, and dealing with that rich second generation? Mom, please don't say such things. Brother Qin has never mentioned anything like that. If he hears you, how will I face him next time? Lin Sierra pouted playfully at Zhao Mingyue, her shyness evident. Lin Tianlin nodded in agreement. I believe Sierra is right. Although Qin Lang has an impressive background, his character is commendable. It is very likely that he is taking special care of our daughter because he promised teacher Zhou. With a remarkable young man like Qin Lang, what kind of girlfriend could he not find? How could he possibly do so much for our Sierra? It's merely coincidence, just coincidence. Stop overthinking. We wouldn't want to upset Sierra. Zhao Mingyue rolled her eyes, too weary to engage further with her husband. Useless. This guy is so one-track minded. He simply does not understand the complexities of romantic relationships. She turned to walk inside. Why are you running away? Can't argue with me. So you flee. Huh? Lin Tianlin shouted after her. Zhao Mingwei turned back, silent, but her lips formed two words, a classic expletive. Zhao Mingwei, you've gone too far. Don't think that just because you're silent I can't see through it. Are you calling me an idiot? Sierra is right here. Didn't you promise not to insult me in front of her? Have you forgotten? Lin Tianlin protested, turning to his daughter and earnestly advising, Sierra, you must not be like your mother. Do not speak carelessly, and especially do not insult others, understand? Lin Sierra's lovely lips quivered. She truly wished to echo her mother-esque sentiments, but years of habit compelled her to suppress her words. Without saying a word, her beautiful, bright eyes glanced at her father, then turned away disinterestedly as she maneuvered her electric wheelchair to leave. Hey, what is wrong with you two today? You both seem off. Do you dislike me? Am I a bother in this family? Fine, I'll leave. Is that what you want? Lin Tianlin felt a surge of frustration. Squeak. Lin Sierra emerged in her electric wheelchair, holding a blanket, which she handed to her father. It's cold outside tonight. If you sleep on a park bench, this will keep you warm. Lin Tianlin opened his mouth, but no words came forth. He felt as though he had been subjected to a cruel jest. In the villa's living room, Qin Lang stood before the sofa, commending, your skills have indeed progressed, yet consistent practice is essential. He produced a planetary cup and tossed it to Chun Ziki, instructing, this trinket can aid you in mastering this craft more adeptly. Do not underestimate such a seemingly trivial snack. If you can consume its contents entirely without a spoon, you will have truly mastered it. Do you comprehend? Comprehend? What nonsense! Chun Ziki rolled her eyes, wiping away tears, feeling too exasperated to engage with him further. Where are the clues? Hand them over. She reached out for the information, aware that Qin Lang was using it as leverage. Why else would she willingly approach him? Fine, I made copies. Just take a look, Qin Lang said, retrieving a stack of documents from beneath the sofa cushions and tossing them to her. Chun Ziki stood there, meticulously perusing each page. As the number of opened pages increased, her expression grew increasingly grim, culminating in sheer disbelief when she recognized a familiar photograph. How is this possible? How could he still be alive? Was all of this orchestrated by him? Her incredulous mutterings echoed in the room. She had never fathomed that her uncle was still among the living, and every clue pointed unmistakably toward him. Was it truly her uncle, in his pursuit of status and wealth, who had torn apart his own family? If it were merely a familial rift, it could be dismissed as the actions of a scoundrel. Yet the reality was far grimmer, with lives lost in the process. These clues could not be genuine. There had to be some misunderstanding. Chun Ziki lifted her gaze, fervently shaking her head, unwilling to accept the implications of the documents. Qin Lang shrugged, delivering another of his classic lines. If this is your perspective, there is little I can do. I have provided the clues, believe them or not. Furthermore, I must advise you against recklessly stirring up trouble. It will only alert the serpent in the grass. The family your uncle has aligned with possesses considerable influence, even within the entirety of the city. With your current standing, seeking confrontation could lead to your immediate disappearance. He was not attempting to frighten Chun Ziki, but rather revealing the harsh reality of elite families. Even with knowledge of her uncle's heinous actions, such matters would typically be resolved internally. Given Chun Ziki's temperament, if she were to confront them, they would surely eliminate her to prevent any information from leaking. It truly is him. Why? Why him? Tears welled in Chun Ziki's beautiful eyes. Her uncle and his family, along with several elders, had always treated her with utmost kindness. The tragic incident from years ago had nearly driven her to despair. She was reluctant to doubt her uncle, yet the remnants from that fateful day included a charred corpse, and the investigation had concluded it was indeed her uncle's body. But now he was alive, and for all these years, he had not reappeared in Tianhai City. Was that body truly her uncle's, or had he employed a decoy to extricate himself from that dire situation? Chapter 122. The Wrathful Blood-Red Mandala. Longing to devour his flesh, consider this an additional reward. I shall impart another piece of news. Qin Lang gazed solemnly into Chun Ziki's eyes and stated with gravity, the 9 wells where your aunt's body rests are not as simplistic as you assume. They serve as a means to suppress vengeful spirits, a form of self-reassurance for the living, fearing being tormented by the souls of the wronged. Chun Ziki's complexion darkened as she pondered her still-living uncle, likely the deranged mastermind behind it all. Not only had he caused her aunt's demise, but he also sought to subdue her spirit. Setting aside the question of whether souls truly exist, the sheer cruelty of it sent shivers down her spine. Do you wish for me to kill him now? Chun-Ziki gritted her teeth, her eyes ablaze with fury. Qin Lang shook his head. Whether you choose to kill him or not is of no concern to me. I merely harbor disdain for that fellow, Chun Pingen. Is this matter connected to Chun Pingen? Chun-Ziki furrowed her brow. Are you suggesting that I confront him? Qin Lang rolled his eyes. It must be acknowledged that Chun-Ziki had indeed grasped a crucial point, yet he would never concede to that. With a derisive chuckle, he remarked, have you perhaps overestimated your own capabilities? Do I require your assistance to deal with anyone? Let's not dwell on superfluous matters. I am weary. You may leave now. Chun-Ziki departed, her heart entwined with grief and bitterness. She could hardly fathom that after years of pursuit, the conclusion would be such. Investigation was imperative, of course. Yet, her uncle's existence served as the most substantial evidence. Simultaneously, Qin Lang had sown a seed of animosity within her heart towards the orchestrator of the 9 wells. Confronting Chun Pingen would undoubtedly link him to these wells. After all, this arrangement was originally devised by Chun Pingen's master, intended to entangle Chun-Ziki with the blood-red mandala and Chun Pingen. As for the present, regardless of whether it was the blood-red mandala or Chun-Ziki, their natures dictated that they would no longer be entwined with Chun Pingen. What remained was a profound intent to kill. Once Chun-Ziki had driven away, Qin Lang ascended the stairs, muttering his displeasure. How long do you intend to eavesdrop? As he stepped into the bedroom, the blood-red mandala followed closely behind. This female assassin, ranked among the top 3 on the assassin list, possessed an unparalleled stealth, undetectable even to seasoned officers like Chun-Ziki. Yet, regrettably, her skills were rendered futile in Qin Lang's presence. His previous words had been intentionally meant for the blood-red mandala's ears, encouraging Chun-Ziki to sever ties with Chun Pingen. Why not bring the blood-red mandala into the fray as well? After all, the one being suppressed was her own mother. With practiced ease, the blood-red mandala was suspended. You truly possess remarkable audacity, daring to eavesdrop in my presence. With gritted teeth, the blood-red mandala demanded, Qin Lang, did you truly tell my sister everything? Is my man still alive? She did not refer to the man who still lived as her father, her mind in a state of disarray. Are you truly unaware of the situation? Do you now possess the right to question me? The Crimson Mandala could not restrain herself any longer. Qin Lang, I will not let you off the hook. One day, I shall personally end your life. If you possess the courage, then kill me now. Go ahead, you bastard. The sounds of furious curses and roars intertwined, leading an outsider to believe that profound enmity lay between them, though Qin Lang was already well aware of the truth. Suddenly, the vitriol escalated. Was something amiss? It seemed as though there was an urgent desire to provoke his anger. Why was that? Qin Lang grasped the medical instruments, a slight smirk gracing his lips. Clearly, the Crimson Mandala had grown accustomed to treatment by now. The recent sessions must have yielded significant results. However, he understood the importance of moderation, knowing he could not push too hard nor allow her to become too lax. As a skilled physician, the treatment would persist. Drawing a deep breath, the Crimson Mandala fixed her gaze on Qin Lang, her teeth clenched in rage. I could devour your flesh. Ah, how abrupt. Qin Lang mused that he had toyed with the Crimson Mandala long enough. Perhaps it was time to grant her one request. Since she had voiced it, he would reluctantly oblige her. With benevolence, he would allow her to fulfill this desire. Chapter 123. At such a young age, she had already learned to face sorrow with a smile. Ding. The host has captured the female protagonist, the Crimson Mandala. Congratulations to the host for acquiring 100,000 points of Destiny Villain value. Due to the Crimson Mandala's unique constitution, the Destiny Villain value is doubled as a token of recognition. Qin Lang turned the Crimson Mandala to face him. At this moment, she appeared dazed, her enchanting eyes vacant, staring blankly ahead, her mind a complete void, as if afflicted by dementia. Healing requires a gradual approach. Having completed the first course of treatment, it was time to commence the second. How do you feel now? Qin Lang gently inquired about her condition. The Crimson Mandala, still in a daze, took a long while to regain her senses, glaring at Qin Lang through gritted teeth. I wish I could kill you. As she spoke, her tone shifted abruptly. Fear and trepidation welled within her. It seemed she required further treatment. Observing her resistance, it was evident that her heart was still troubled, necessitating an increase in dosage. With one hand, Qin Lang lowered the Crimson Mandala from the hook, while the other patted his waist, advising, however, healing is a process. We cannot be overly aggressive. Rest well tomorrow night, and do not return. The Crimson Mandala departed, making her way along the wall. Before leaving, she cast a lingering glance at Qin Lang's hand on his waist, a strange sensation stirring within her. It felt as if, in a subtle manner, she had triumphed over him for the first time since their acquaintance. The following day, to honor Zhou Ziqing, Qin Lang made a visit to Tianhai University. Due to a scheduling conflict in the afternoon, there were no classes, and he hurried over upon receiving a call from Bai Xiaoyun. As soon as he stepped through the door, Bai Xiaoyun, dressed in white, dashed towards him on her long legs clad in white stockings, colliding into his embrace like a fledgling seeking warmth. With her arms tightly wrapped around Qin Lang's neck, she nuzzled her cheek against him, clearly missing him dearly. Brother, brother. Bai Xiaoyun pouted, her voice sweet and childlike, as if she wished to express her heartfelt longing, yet could only manage the words brother. The rest eluded her. Qin Lang affectionately ruffled the girl's hair, initially contemplating to tease her with a playful reprimand. However, he reconsidered, thinking that if she collided with him, it was merely a bump, for he was physically robust enough to withstand it. Is someone bullying you at school? Or is it something concerning your father? Qin Lang attempted to set Bai Xiaoyun down, but inadvertently his hand slipped. He awkwardly chuckled. Your skin is just too smooth. Bai Xiaoyun, blushing, lowered her head as if caught in a transgression by the principal, fixating on her brother's shoes. Why was she not looking at her own little white shoes? Well, that was obvious. She needed to be able to see them. Despite her tender age, Bai Xiaoyun possessed a high emotional intelligence. At that moment, she felt a twinge of confusion, pondering why her brother's hand had slipped beneath her skirt. Unable to comprehend, she chose not to dwell on it, thinking that if her brother's hand were to be steady next time, what would she do? No one dares to bully me at school. And that big bad dad hasn't caused any trouble for me or my sister lately. Last time, he even asked us to come home, but we didn't agree. Oof. The thought of that big bad father made Bai Xiaoyun feel a surge of irritation. Did he think he could summon them at will? Were they merely two little dogs to obey his whims? She had her brother, and that was more than enough. She did not need a father. Qin Lang smiled silently, understanding that as people age, they tend to grow fonder of their offspring, particularly the obstinate old folks like Bai Xiaochun. Initially, he had a son whom he cherished above all else. Now that the son was gone, even the grandchildren had been taken from him by the unscrupulous Bai Shui. With no son to rely on, his affections naturally turned towards his daughter. In the kitchen, Bai Ruyu, busy preparing, emerged with a bowl of soup, her face radiating warmth. You haven't eaten yet, have you? Come here, I have your share ready. Dressed in a white t-shirt and a fitted suit paired with a super short skirt that barely reached 2 inches above her knees, Bai Ruyu's figure was accentuated to perfection. Especially her long, slender legs encased in black stockings. They were straight and firm, embodying an allure that was both captivating and exquisite. 1 more inch would be too much. 1 less would be too little. Qin Lang scrutinized the scene, with a playful smile gracing his face. He could comprehend why Bai Xiaoyun was dressed so beautifully. After all, she was a young girl infatuated with appearances. Naturally, upon his arrival, she would wish to adorn herself. However, what of Bai Ruyu? Today, she had taken a day off. Yet she appeared at home so refreshingly elegant. Who would don such attire to prepare soup in the kitchen? What intentions lay hidden in her heart? Brother, could you take me and sister out to play this afternoon? We have 2 days off. Bai Xiaoyun exclaimed, her excitement palpable as she clung to Qin Lang's arm. Upon noticing her sister's scrutinizing gaze, she could not help but beam. I love studying too, but the school forbids it. The senior students have exams. Our classroom has been occupied. It's so unfair. They won't even provide me a place to study. Qin Lang clicked his tongue in admiration and patted the top of Bai Xiaoyun's head. I have recognized your fervor for learning. Yet, I did not anticipate that at such a tender age, you have already mastered the art of confronting sorrow with a smile, a truly commendable quality. Chapter 124. The Arrival of Sister Yao. Everyone clear out, just indulge her. Sooner or later, you will spoil her. Bai Ruyu rolled her eyes, her feelings a tumultuous mix. She ought to be happy seeing her sister so joyful. Yet the stark contrast in Qin Lang's treatment of her and her sister gnawed her. He constantly pampered her sister, inadvertently causing her pain. Qin Lang chuckled silently, following her into the kitchen to assist with the dishes. Leaning closer, he whispered with a smile. What is this? Are you feeling jealous? What nonsense are you thinking? How could I possibly be jealous of you? Bai Ryu huffed, reluctant to admit her feelings as she cast a glance outside the kitchen, confirming her sister's absence. With a stern demeanor, she added, but you must not act recklessly with Yun Yun. We had an agreement. Qin Lang nodded, curiosity piqued. And what if Yun Yun were to act recklessly? Bai Ryu initially intended to retort fiercely at Qin Lang, But upon reflecting on her sister's infatuated demeanor, especially in Qin Lang's presence, she found herself at a loss for words. Hesitantly, she stammered, "Then you must refuse her, at least during this period." With a sigh, she felt uncertain. Although her sister was infatuated, her stubbornness was remarkable. Once she set her mind on something, no one could alter it, not even her sister. If she insisted too much, it might create a rift between them. As she pondered, her gaze fell upon Qin Lang once more, a hint of resentment in her eyes. It was all his fault. She could not fathom what heinous deeds the two sisters might have committed in their past lives to deserve to be entangled with him now. "Do you know why I indulge in you?" Qin Lang spoke meaningfully. "Because you two have divergent perspectives on matters, leading to disagreements." "What do you mean?" Bai Ruyu was left bewildered by his words. Qin Lang shrugged and candidly expressed his desire for a daughter. In an instant, Bai Ruyu's porcelain-like cheeks flushed crimson. What was happening? Why had he suddenly broached this topic? Could it be that he had discovered her previous medication? That seemed implausible, even if she had been taking medication. It was out of character for Qin Lang to pose such a question. After all, given his distinguished lineage, having a daughter outside of wedlock will be tantamount to declaring to his family that he intended to marry. Could it be that Qin Lang had already envisioned her as his fiancée? A tempest of thoughts swirled in Bai Ruyu's mind, racing rapidly until, after a considerable pause, she stammered, I'm not prepared for children yet. If you really desire a daughter, then perhaps I could consider not taking medication next time." Qin Lang remained silent, instead carrying the dishes and accompanying Bai Ruyu outside, where they sat beside Bai Xiaoyan. He posed the same question, "Yin, I want a daughter." A glimmer of light flickered in by Xiaoyan's large eyes as she leaped into Qin Lang's embrace, repeatedly murmuring, "Daddy, Daddy." As Qin Lang affectionately ruffled by Xiaoyan's hair, he glanced toward Bai Ruyu with a smile, as if to say, "Behold, this is the difference. How shameless." Bai Ruyu rolled her eyes, letting out a shy huff. She was baffled by the convoluted thoughts that seemed to perpetually occupy Qin Lang's mind, conjuring up such peculiar ideas. Asking her to call him daddy? That was simply absurd. Moreover, her sister's reaction left her astounded. It seemed she had no boundaries when it came to Qin Lang. She was no longer concerned about whether Qin Lang would commit a socially reprehensible act. Rather, she worried whether her sister might consume him. Goodness. Especially after observing her sister's behavior. This notion seemed increasingly plausible. In their youth, when she and her sister were of similar age, they often succumbed to insecurities, instinctively hunching their backs. After all, compared to their peers, the two sisters resembled dairy cows. Yet, her sister exhibited no trace of insecurity, frequently wielding a one-eyed rabbit to charge at others without restraint. If this were a football match, she would have been sent off with a red card long ago. Such a technical foul. All right, time to eat. Yin, stop fooling around and return to your seat, Bai Ruyu urged. Bai Xiaoyan reluctantly detached herself from Qin Lang's embrace, pouting in discontent. As an array of dishes was placed on the table, a man and woman entered from outside. The man possessed a square face, reminiscent of a heroic character from a television drama, tall and handsome, showing no signs of age, yet exuding a certain rugged charm. His complexion, however, appeared slightly pallid. "Uncle Chu, what brings you here?" Bai Ruyu exclaimed in surprise upon seeing the newcomer, rising to her feet. It was none other than Chu Tianpeng, the chairman of the Chu group, who had arrived. Naturally, by his side was his beloved daughter, Chu Mingyao. "Mingyao, you could have given us a heads-up before coming," Bai Ruyu remarked with a wry smile as she looked at Chu Mingyao. The Bai and Chu families were both prominent clans in Tianhai City, frequently engaged in business and social exchanges. It was entirely normal for them to maintain contact. With a chuckle, Chu Tianpeng teased, "I trust you don't mind if we add a couple more sets of chopsticks?" Bai Ruyu promptly replied, "I'll fetch them right away," before dashing into the kitchen. Bai Xiaoyan, being obedient, greeted Chu uncle warmly before disregarding him entirely, seizing Chu Mingyao's hand and bringing her before Qin Lang, saying, "Sister Mingyao, this is brother Qin Lang. He is quite remarkable. He saved me from a group of nasty villains last time." Chu Mingyao scrutinized Qin Lang for a moment, then suddenly smiled and extended her hand, saying, "Hello, Qin Lang. I'm Chu Mingyao. Although we met this morning, let us consider this our formal introduction." Qin Lang courteously shook her hand and replied, "The renowned campus beauty of Chu, who wouldn't know you at Tianhai University. That is merely the result of random selections by outsiders, devoid of any real value." "You needn't keep calling me campus beauty. Just call me by my name," she insisted. Chu Mingyao was indeed familiar with Qin Lang, having spent an entire morning in the classroom with him. Though they hadn't spoken, She had cast several glances his way after he entered, driven by a simple curiosity about a new transfer student, rather than any particular affection. Qin Lang nodded, yet a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. Chu Mendia, Yao Yao. Is she the same character from that game? The one who rides atop others daily? What does Chu Mengyao mean? Does she wish to be in a position of dominance as well? Yet, she has not made her intentions clear. Who knows what she truly means? Chapter 125. Chu Mengyao's plea for help. The predicament of the Chu group. I sense you are not contemplating anything good. Chu Mengyao squinted her enchanting almond-shaped eyes at Qin Lang, a mischievous smile gracing her lips. She was astute, effortlessly discerning the thoughts of most young men. Unsurprisingly, the first thought that crossed the minds of most boys upon seeing her was quite similar. Not at all, Qin Lang replied cheerfully, shaking his head. A scholar's thoughts cannot be dismissed as frivolous. I assure you, they are merely ordinary reflections. Do you both know each other? Bai Xiaoyan inquired, her bright eyes blinking in confusion. Qin Lang had no intention of publicizing his enrollment at Tianhai University, so he deftly shifted the topic, playfully patting the head of the starry-eyed girl. We weren't acquainted before, but thanks to your introduction, how could I not know now? Indeed, one is often influenced by their company. All those connected to you, Yun, are stunning beauties. Bai Xiaoyun beamed with delight at the compliment, her happiness radiating, while the one-eyed rabbit seemed to bounce around in excitement. Fortunately, she was dressed in loose attire. Had she worn a uniform like Bai Ruyu, the buttons might have been in peril of bursting from her exuberance. Soon, Bai Ruyu gracefully arranged 2 sets of hot bowls and chopsticks on the table, urging Chu's father and daughter to take their seats before inquiring, Uncle Chu, what brings you here today? And you brought Yao Yao along. Surely, it's not merely for a meal? Chu Tianpeng candidly replied, there has been a bit of trouble at the company. I initially came to borrow some money from old Bai, but he mentioned he has been feeling rather dispirited lately. He said you sisters have been lingering outside all day, unwilling to return home, leaving him, a solitary old man, without the heart to deal with the company's affairs. Both were businessmen, one facing economic difficulties and the other grappling with familial obstacles. Coincidentally, Chu Mengyao shared a good rapport with the Bai sisters. With Bai Xiaochun's intentions and Chu Tianpeng's motives aligning, the current situation naturally unfolded. Chu Tianpeng was no fool. He recognized that the time had come to speak his mind. Seizing Bai Ruyu's inquiry as an opportunity, he expressed his purpose. To bolster his chances of success, he had deliberately summoned his daughter, playing the emotional card. Quite the cunning strategist. Bai Ruyu's expression darkened instantaneously, her tone turning somewhat rigid. Not due to dissatisfaction with Chu Tianpeng himself, but rather discomfort towards the person he represented. Soju, there are matters regarding the Bai family that you may not be aware of. Even if you sought my assistance with the borrowing, it would be futile. I have distanced myself from the Bai family's company to work under Mr. Qin now. Mr. Qin? Chu Tianpeng's gaze shifted to Qin Lang, and he instantly discerned that this young man was no ordinary individual. He exuded charisma and vigor, unmistakably hailing from a prominent family, and clearly possessing a close relationship with the Bai sisters, thereby affirming his capabilities and tactics. However, he had not anticipated that even a business prodigy like Bai Ruyu would yield to someone beneath him. It appeared he had somewhat underestimated this young man before him. Wait, something felt amiss. As Chu Tianpeng focused on persuading the Bai sisters to return home, a sudden realization struck him. Mr. Qin, Bai Ruyu's employer, referred to as Qin Lang by his daughter? Good heavens, you are Mr. Qin Lang. Even for someone accustomed to significant affairs like Chu Tianpeng, the revelation of Qin Lang's identity nearly provoked an expletive, though he managed to restrain himself just in time. Qin Lang nodded with a smile. I am indeed called Qin Lang. It seems Mr. Chu is familiar with me? I've heard of you, Chu Tianpeng replied, attempting to wipe the sweat from his brow. Yet, considering the circumstances, it would be rather unbecoming for an elder to appear flustered upon discovering Qin Lang's identity, so he merely nodded in acknowledgement. In Tianhai City, Chu Tianpeng was undoubtedly a figure of great significance, comparable to Bai Xiaochun, with a family business that held its own. However, he had recently encountered some troubles and required funds for liquidity. Otherwise, he would be forced to liquidate stocks. He had never met Qin Lang nor seen his photograph. There was simply no way, given the stature and background of Qin Lang. Have you ever encountered a prominent figure traversing the global stage, their progeny's affairs circulating online, who would dare to take indiscreet photographs and disseminate them, only to find themselves receiving a sealed letter the following day? Moreover, a plethora of troubles would inevitably await you. However, through conversations with friends and business associates, Chu Tianpeng learned that a notable individual from Yinjing had arrived in Tianhai. To his astonishment, that individual was none other than Qin Lang. Uncle Chu, you may not be familiar with the affairs of the Bai family. Some matters, once missed, remain irrevocably lost. The vast enterprise of the Bai family pales in comparison to my vision, as seen through the eyes of Bai Ruyu. Bai Xiaochun's treatment of my sister and me was reprehensible. Henceforth, not seeking revenge, we will certainly no longer be at his beck and call. Should you wish to continue acting as a mediator, I must regretfully inform you in advance. There is little more to say. The deeds Bai Xiaochun has inflicted upon us are utterly appalling, and I fear that even Chu Tianpeng remains oblivious. Otherwise, he would never willingly come to this place to act as a mediator. Bai Ryu suspects that Bai Xiaochun is intentionally fabricating excuses to deny a loan. Sister Ryu, is there truly no opportunity left? I have never implored you for anything, but this time, may I indulge in a moment of caprice and request your assistance? Chu Mingyao, who had been quietly listening, felt a pang of concern for her father. She wished to dissuade him from such obstinacy, yet this was the only solution he could conceive. Should the company face calamity, her father would surely be devastated. Chu Mingyao felt she was placing an unreasonable burden upon him, yet witnessing her father's increasingly pallid complexion filled her with genuine concern. Having lost her mother at a young age, she was raised solely by her father. As a daughter, how could she prioritize her own dignity over her father's peril? Even if she discerned the animosity lurking in Bai Ruyu's gaze, she felt compelled to risk it all. Bai Ryu turned her attention to Qin Lang. Between them, an unspoken understanding had subtly formed, especially under the present circumstances where the conditions were already established. Bai Ryu merely wished to extend a helping hand, albeit without leveraging the Bai family's influence, and sought Qin Lang's counsel. The Chu father and daughter, along with Bai Xiaoyun, all fixed their gaze upon him. Why are you all looking at me? What does this matter have to do with me? Qin Lang exclaimed, exasperated. I have heard a thing or two about the Chu group's predicament. The required funds are exorbitant. Even if I wish to assist, I lack sufficient cash flow. Moreover, the risks involved in countering these funds are considerable, and no one is inclined to bear such risks. Even when purchasing a watermelon, one must first ascertain its ripeness before parting with money. Assisting Chu Mingyao entails considering what she can contribute as well. Chapter 126. Chu Mingyao kneels. The child of destiny aids the antagonist. Chu Mingyao gritted her teeth, casting a profound glance at Qin Lang, yet ultimately refrained from uttering more. Firstly, she was not very familiar with Qin Lang and found it difficult to ask for assistance. Secondly, Qin Lang had already gained some insight into the current state of the Chu group and was likely reluctant to wade into such murky waters. Chu Tianpeng let out a sigh behind them. He had initially planned to borrow some funds for a hedge, but given the present circumstances, it was evident that Bai Ryu was unwilling to return. The slender thread of hope he had clung to suddenly shattered in that moment. With a sharp intake of breath, Chu Tianpeng grasped the fabric over his chest, the agony contorting his facial muscles. Uncle Chu, what is the matter? Bai Ryu exclaimed in surprise, rushing forward to inquire. What is happening? Is it because she refuses to go home that Uncle Chu has been driven to such a state? It's nothing, I'm fine. Chu Tianpeng gritted his teeth, shaking his head in anguish, one hand clutching his chest as if the flesh were not his own. Chu Mingyao gently patted her father's back, looking at Bai Ryu with sorrowful eyes. Sister Ryu, my father's health is like this. It has nothing to do with you, so you needn't worry. Should we call an ambulance? Uncle Chu's condition does not seem optimistic, Bai Ryu asked softly, filled with concern. Chu Tianpeng waved his hand dismissively, insisting it was unnecessary. Going to the hospital would only result in painkillers, and the more one takes, the weaker the body becomes. It's better to endure it than to exacerbate the condition. Bai Ryu felt at a loss, watching Chu Tianpeng in such torment. As a younger person, it was indeed distressing. Chu Mingyao wore a bitter expression. There was a doctor who could help my father with acupuncture to alleviate some discomfort, but now that man has been detained for hitting someone and hasn't been released yet. If he were here, my father wouldn't be in such pain. The doctor she mentioned was naturally Chun Pingan, who remained in detention, the timing of his release contingent on his behavior. Tears glistened in Chu Mingyao's eyes as she lamented why this affliction had to befall her father. She would willingly bear the suffering herself if it meant sparing him. Bai Ryu felt a twinge of sympathy, releasing a long, heavy sigh. Every family has its burdens to bear. Bai Xiaoyun, frightened, had crept to Qin Lang's side, clutching his arm, unable to look away. The transformation in Chu Tianpeng was terrifying, The once amiable uncle now bore the visage of a menacing specter. For someone accustomed to the beauty of life, this was undoubtedly a heavy blow. Uncle Chu, Mingyao mentioned a doctor who could alleviate your pain. Is there no cure for this condition? Qin Lang gently inquired, disregarding Chu Mingyao's grievances. Who could be blamed? Only the fact that you are the daughter of fortune can be held accountable. You enjoy robust health, with no ailments whatsoever. If your father were also in perfect health, then the favored child of destiny would have no reason to entangle himself with you. Everything, it seems, is merely a conduit crafted by the author to pave the way for Chun Pingon. Regrettably, the present Chen Pingon has found himself ensnared in a detention center, a twist of fate that he is ill-equipped to bear. Young Chen once remarked that my body harbors numerous ailments from my youth, which have now erupted with the passage of time. Conventional medical methods prove futile. All one can do is seek ways to suppress and alleviate the pain. Chu Qianping's countenance softened slightly, though his facial muscles occasionally twitched in discomfort, such as the consequence of his reckless youth in the military, where he was unflinchingly brave. In the face of perilous missions, he would invariably charge forth, leaving behind a multitude of hidden ailments. His survival to this day is largely due to his substantial family wealth. Had he been an ordinary person, he would not only be dead, but likely paralyzed as well. Drawing a deep breath, Chu Tianpeng managed a wry smile. Yet even young Chun is unable to eradicate my chronic afflictions. He mentioned a remedy known as the cleansing essence pill, which could purge impurities from the human body. Father, please do not mention that fellow's cleansing essence pill. Chu Mingyao exclaimed, her frustration palpable. Her indifference towards Chun Pingon stemmed solely from his ability to alleviate her father's suffering. However, the mere mention of the cleansing essence pill unsettled her. Its purported efficacy was overshadowed by the uncertainty of its existence. She had only heard of it and lacked the means to concoct it herself. Although she had spoken of seeking her master, he was now confined within the detention center. Where could she possibly search? Chun Pingon's actions had unwittingly instilled hope in Chu Mingyao, yet witnessing her father's agony extinguished that hope. Mingyao, you cannot place the blame on young Chun. My ailments have no connection to him. His assistance in alleviating my pain is already a significant help. Chu Tianpeng sighed, recognizing the rarity and value of the cleansing essence pill from Young Chen's descriptions. If it were to exist in this world, countless individuals would likely pay exorbitant sums for it. Yet it remains a coveted rarity. I harbor no resentment. It is merely a discomfort within me. Chu Mingyao's voice fell to a somber tone. Qin Lang, listening nearby, felt a surge of delight. What a stroke of luck. He understood that the cleansing essence pill in his system backpack could aid Chu Tianping's condition, prompting his deliberate inquiry. He intended to subtly elevate the perceived value of the pill, hoping to convey the magnitude of his sacrifice to the father-daughter duo. However, it seemed that Chun Pingon had unintentionally set the stage for him beforehand. Was it not absurd? The son of fortune assisting a villain? Qin Lang clenched his fist to his mouth, clearing his throat gently. Ah, the cleansing essence pill. I believe I possess one. What? Chu Mingyao turned to him with wide eyes, her excitement palpable. You have a cleansing essence pill? Would you consider selling it to me? I am willing to pay any price. Qin Lang hesitated. A glimmer of hope flickered in Chu Tianping's eyes, quickly followed by a pained exclamation. Mingyao, how can you speak to young Master Qin in such a manner? The essence cleansing elixir is an invaluable treasure. Even Qin Xiaoyu acquired it for his own family. Your blind demands will only burden him further. On Chu Mingyao's exquisitely beautiful face, anguish was evident. She recognized the absurdity of her request. Yet how could a daughter bear witness to her father's suffering? With a sudden thud, Chu Mingyao knelt before Qin Lang, her dignity as a young lady utterly shattered. Qin Lang, I beseech you, I implore you. I know you are not in want of wealth and are of noble standing, yet my father genuinely requires this essence cleansing elixir. Please, assist me if you would. I shall comply with any of your demands. Chapter 127. Chu Mingyao's Hidden Strategy. The embarrassment of Chu Tianpeng, the essence cleansing elixir, is exceedingly rare. Even if I sought to obtain it, the price would be exorbitantly high. Qin Lang appeared to be in distress, glancing towards Bai Ruyu. Bai Ruyu, puzzled, wondered why he was looking at her. What was this essence cleansing elixir? She had never heard of it, and it bore no relevance to her. Unbeknownst to her, this elixir was obtained through the lottery of the fated antagonist value. And with each of her struggles, Qin Lang accrued 1,000 points of that value. Had she been aware, she would likely have forcibly pulled Chu Mingyao to her feet. It's far too costly. The randomness involved is daunting. One could never ascertain how much of the fated antagonist value would be needed, or how many times one would need to toil to draw just one. Please, I implore you, if there exists a channel, we are more than willing to pay a hefty price to procure it, as long as you are willing to provide us with that channel. Chu Mingyao, on the ground, crawled closer to Qin Lang, clutching his leg. Tears as large as beans cascading down her cheeks. Qin Lang hesitated. It was not that he was unwilling to offer a channel, but the essence-cleansing elixir was exceedingly precious. Even that esteemed individual could not refine it repeatedly, and the few he had already crafted had been given to others, perhaps even consumed. It was impossible to purchase. That esteemed individual? Who might that be? Qin Lang himself was unsure, merely blustering for effect. Chen Pingon had claimed the elixir was precious, and he decided to ride that wave, amplifying his claims. Furthermore, although he possessed more than one of these elixirs, their rarity made them difficult to obtain. He was no lucky sovereign. To acquire a single elixir, one could not fathom the laborious efforts of Bai Ruyu and Qiu Jiu'er. Such a transaction would amount to billions. Could it be so casually given away? What followed was a heartfelt plea, as Chu Mingyao's dignity lay in tatters before Qin Lang, utterly obliterated. In the presence of others, she could maintain her lofty status, yet before Qin Lang, she was reduced to the dust. She uttered every flattering word imaginable, nearly offering herself in submission. Bai Ruyu observed with a heavy heart, yearning to lift Chu Mingyao from the ground, yet the latter remained resolute in her kneeling position before Qin Lang. Brother, please help Sister Yao Yao. Bai Xiaoyan gently tugged at Qin Lang's arm, murmuring weakly. She was aware of the preciousness of the cleansing elixir. That was precisely why she had refrained from pleading for Sister Yao Yao initially. However, as time wore on, not only did Sister Yao Yao fail to recover, but her sorrow deepened, which stirred Bai Xiaoyun's compassion, prompting her to finally intercede. Yet, in the depths of her infatuated heart, her brother remained paramount. Leaning close, she whispered that if her brother had his own use for the elixir, then it was as if she had said nothing at all. You little girl, you always know how to charm. Qin Lang affectionately ruffled her hair before turning his gaze to Chu Mingyao. Originally, your family matters were none of my concern, and I had no intention of intervening. However, now that even Yunyun has spoken, as her elder brother, I cannot remain indifferent. I can provide you with the cleansing elixir, but there is a condition. Chu Mingyao's heart fluttered with excitement and trepidation as she asked, what condition? Qin Lang narrowed his eyes, surveying her figure. A subtle psychological cue that he did not articulate directly. Just as Chu Mingyao, fully aware of his implications, was about to lower her head in embarrassment, Qin Lang shifted his tone, stating, I have no intention of offering financial assistance to the Chu group without reason. However, if Mr. Chu fails to secure funding to mitigate his predicament, he may find himself needing to dilute his shares, correct? I have a keen interest in the shares held by Mr. Chu and wish to acquire a portion. Taking advantage of Chu Mingyao. No, he had no intention of entangling himself in such matters at this juncture, especially with the Bai sisters nearby. A mere glance was sufficient for her to grasp the situation. The temper and dignity of the young lady had already dissipated in his presence, due to connections with Huang Cheng and this acquisition of shares in the Chu group. When the time came for Chu Mingyao to be at her wit's end, he would be poised to enter the fray. At that point, when the Chu family faced dire straits, Chu Mingyao would willingly present herself, without him needing to utter a word. Bai Ruyu, following Qin Lang's gaze, also turned to Chu Tianpeng. She harbored intentions of acquiring shares in the Chu group, yet felt hesitant to broach the subject due to his elder status. To her surprise, Qin Lang, with his unabashed demeanor, took an interest in such matters, aligning with her desires. Chu Tianpeng, wearing a frown, felt a persistent ache in his chest. After a moment of thought, he nodded, acknowledging that there was no other choice. This time, it was imperative to dilute shares to navigate the crisis, and if young Master Qin was willing, then they would prioritize his offer. Very well. Qin Lang wasted no time, retrieving a specially crafted cleansing elixir from his pocket and placing it into Chu Mingyao's hands. This elixir is extraordinarily precious, and I carry it for emergencies. However, I must caution you. While the cleansing elixir is indeed invaluable and its effects remarkable, it may not suffice alone for your father's condition. Nonetheless, the likelihood of a recurrence in the short term is minimal. Even if the ailment were to resurface, it should not manifest as it has today. Consider this a friendly warning. What if Chu Tianpeng were to engage in some cunning games? One must always keep a reserve. For instance, the washing marrow pill that Qin Lang has just given is a clear indication of this reserve. The true composition of the pill is less than a third of its content, the remainder being merely a sugar coating. It may not be outright counterfeit, but it is certainly diluted. Qin Lang is inherently cut out for business. Otherwise, how could he have risen from nothing to become a billionaire in his past life? A seasoned merchant indeed. Understood. Thank you, young Master Qin. Chu Mingyao hastily took the diluted washing marrow pill and rushed to her father, administering it to him. The others in the dining room became calm, their gazes fixed intently on Chu Tianpeng. 1 minute passed, then 2, as everyone held their breath, eager to witness Chu Tianpeng's reaction after consuming the washing marrow pill. Suddenly, with his face turning crimson, Chu Tianpeng inadvertently let out a loud flatulence. "I must excuse myself," he exclaimed, hurriedly making his exit. The onlookers observed his retreating figure. Though he was unseen, his sounds echoed. Puffed, puffed, puffed. As soon as Chu Tianpeng disappeared into the restroom, an explosive symphony of flatulence erupted, each sound louder than the last, as if competing to see which could be the most impressive. Chapter 128. The Heart of Bai Ruyu. Easily manipulated. Bai Xiaoyan covered her nose and mouth with her small hands, disdainfully waving the air in front of her. Bai Ruyu's expression was also far from pleasant. In television dramas, one would expect a person's body to tremble and radiate with brilliance after consuming such a pill. Yet here, with Chu Tianpeng, it had transformed into an unbearable stench. "Young Master Qin, what does this mean?" Chu Mingyao inquired, a hint of embarrassment in her tone. Qin Lang shrugged. "The washing marrow pill, as its name suggests, is meant to cleanse the impurities within the human body. I initially doubted its efficacy in clearing much of your father's impurities. However, it appears that the accumulation within him is quite extensive. Even a partial cleansing necessitates a prolonged stay in the restroom." Upon hearing this, Chu Mingyao was elated. It was evident that the medicinal effects were taking hold. She envisioned her father expelling years of toxins, his body transitioning towards that of a normal person. Her gaze towards Qin Lang softened, brimming with gratitude. Ding! The fortune of the son of destiny, Chun Ping Un, has decreased by 500 points. Congratulations to the host for gaining 10,000 villain points. After a considerable time, the restroom door swung open. Chu Tianpeng emerged, approaching Qin Lang and the others with a somewhat peculiar gait, a wry smile on his face. "Young Master Qin, this washing marrow pill is truly miraculous. I feel considerably lighter, and that extreme discomfort has vanished." Qin Lang merely hummed in acknowledgement. Could be otherwise? Chu Tianpeng has undoubtedly expelled a great deal of waste. He had shed at least 2 pounds. He did not intend to dwell on this matter, and stated plainly that this was merely the effect of the first treatment. He hoped that the father and daughter would keep the matter of the cleansing elixir confidential. No one could know, not even the young Chun. After all, as you are aware, this elixir is extraordinarily miraculous. If it were to be widely publicized, I would no longer need to busy myself with my own affairs, but instead, I would be inundated with requests from those seeking the elixir. Chu Tianpeng nodded hastily, assuring, "You can rest easy, young Master Qin. No one will be informed. Regarding the dilution of shares, I will liaise with Ruyu at the appropriate time. I shan't linger today, as Yao Yao and I must take our leave." He found himself in a precarious position. How should one articulate this? When one is beset by such ailments, one should never trust a single sound. He was now the prime example of this. Eager to escape, upon receiving a nod from Qin Lang, he hurriedly adopted an awkward posture and fled the villa. Bai Ruyu wore a somewhat bittersweet smile. In truth, there was no need to rush through the discussion of the specifics. Qin Lang chuckled, remarking that it depended on whether Chu Tianpeng possessed the inclination. It was likely that he was overwhelmed, otherwise he would not have fled in such a disheveled manner. Even though Chu Tianpeng attempted to maintain a demeanor of grace and politeness, his gait revealed a slight flaw. You should have informed Uncle Chu in advance to spare him such embarrassment. Bai Ruyu rolled her eyes in exasperation. However, today, you have indeed made a noteworthy contribution to the company. The Chu Corporation holds a considerable reputation in Tianhai City and the surrounding region. This crisis is merely a result of prevailing circumstances. As long as they navigate it smoothly, the prospects for development remain promising. Holding shares in the Chu Corporation, one could simply await the dividends. Dividends? No. Qin Lang was not merely content with receiving dividends. He intended to consume the entire Chu Corporation, bones and all. As for what would become of Chu Tianpeng in the future, he was indifferent. That would depend on Chu Mingyao's performance. Brother, is the cleansing elixir truly that miraculous? Her curiosity about novel things was insatiable. Qin Lang did not conceal the truth, nodding as he explained, It is an exceedingly precious elixir, capable of not only purging the toxins that have accumulated within Chu Tianpeng over the years, but also enhancing his constitution. Let alone him. Even ordinary individuals harbor some impurities within their bodies, and the cleansing elixir serves to eliminate these wasteful substances. After consuming it, not only will one's physique be fortified, but the removal of impurities will also render the skin fairer and smoother. Bai Ruyu felt a twinge of desire. How remarkable! If what you say is true, isn't it even more extraordinary than beauty-enhancing pills? No girl can resist the allure of beauty products, and Bai Ruyu is no exception. Yet, she understood that the cleansing elixir was exceedingly rare. Even a wealthy individual like Chu Tianpeng could not procure one elsewhere without first ingratiating himself before Qin Lang. How could one expect to obtain it easily? Qin Lang reached into his pocket and retrieved 6 diluted washing marrow pills. Chu Tianpeng had only consumed a third of the course, so he handed 3 pills each to the 2 sisters, allowing them to complete their entire treatment, purging impurities from their bodies and enhancing their physiques. Generous, isn't it? He had long prepared for this moment. As for why he didn't present a genuine washing marrow pill directly, he was no fool. The genuine ones bore no significant visual difference from the diluted ones. By producing 3 diluted pills at once, though their effects remained the same, the sisters would perceive the gesture differently. Consider this. Chu Mingyao had knelt before Qin Lang, pleading fervently, and he had begrudgingly given her 1 pill. Yet, as soon as the Bai sisters opened their mouths, he had already laid out the entire course, 3 pills, without the need for any flattery from them. What does it mean to have a disparity? This is precisely what it signifies. It was evident that he was implicitly conveying to Bai Ruyu and Bai Xiaoyun that, despite Chu Mingyao being the campus belle and undoubtedly beautiful, her status in his heart paled in comparison to theirs. Qin Lang held the reins firmly when it came to the Bai sisters. However, he realized the pills were far too precious, each one valued in the millions, and 6 would amount to over 100 million. We cannot accept this. Bai Ruyu quickly shook her head. From Chu Tianping's few remarks, she understood the rarity of the washing marrow pills. If one was so valuable, what a 6? Clenching his fist, Qin Lang was about to discard the 6 pills. Bai Xiaoyun immediately grasped his arm, her urgency palpable. Brother, what are you doing? Qin Lang's expression darkened. These washing marrow pills have been specifically sought for the 2 sisters at great personal cost and effort. Yet what of it? As long as it ensured their well-being, he was willing to pay any price. But now, if they were unwilling to accept them, what purpose did he have in retaining them? To cure Chu Tianpeng? He had no interest in that. It was better to cast them aside. Chapter 129. The Qin Family Rules. Bai Ruyu, as the first enforcer of the rules, stopped pretending. Can't we just accept them? Bai Ruyu remarked, exasperated. Honestly, at this age, still acting like children. It was clear to her that Qin Lang was putting on an act. The pretense was painfully obvious. Not only was she aware, but even Qin Lang understood it deep down. But what of it? He deliberately acted so transparently to ensure that Bai Ruyu recognized his genuine intention to give away these precious pills. The process was inconsequential. What mattered was that his sincerity was conveyed and the balance of power was established. As Bai Ruyu accepted the 3 washing marrow pills, her beautiful eyes sparkled as she gazed at them for a while, occasionally stealing glances at Qin Lang to gauge his reaction. Noticing he was completely absorbed in teasing his younger sister, she felt a peculiar sensation. It seemed as though the bond between her and Qin Lang had transformed, akin to that of family. Open and unguarded, so readily sharing such invaluable treasures, without a hint of hesitation. Although this fellow can be insufferable at times, for the most part, he treats her with remarkable tenderness and warmth. If only Qin Lang were an ordinary person. For reasons unknown, a peculiar thought surged within Bai Ruyu's heart, a desire to possess him entirely. Yet, before she could ponder further, she was overwhelmed by her own thoughts and chastised herself inwardly. Shaking her head vigorously, she cast aside this sentiment. Coming to her senses, she glanced at her sister, who was cozily nestled beside Qin Lang, her cheeks flushing with uncertainty. Was this little girl acting innocently or intentionally? Brother, can I eat this? Bai Xiaoyan inquired, her gaze fixated on a cleansing elixir delicately pinched between Qin Lang's fingers. Tentatively, she approached, using her tiny fingers to brush against his, tasting the sweetness without leaving a trace. Hiss! Qin Lang inhaled sharply, astonished by the innocent expression adorning Bai Xiaoyan's face. A master! This was undoubtedly a masterful display. Who taught her such finesse? So sweet. Bai Xiaoyan smacked her lips, unable to resist leaning closer snuggling into Qin Lang's embrace, clutching one of his arms. Utterly enraptured by the elixir he held, she played with it, savoring the sweetness, yet hesitated to consume it. Qin Lang, momentarily lost in thought, regarded the playful Bai Xiaoyan in his arms, a strange notion taking root in his mind. If only the cleansing elixir could be exchanged for his own eyes. The one smaller than Bai Ruyu's crimson gaze. What a calamity that would be. Stop fooling around. If you want to eat, then eat. It's filthy. Bai Ruyu rolled her eyes, stepping forward to retrieve all 3 cleansing elixirs from Qin Lang's hand and promptly stuffed them into her sister's mouth. Ugh, sister, you're so annoying. Bai Xiaoyan pouted, sulking at being interrupted, just as she had found the perfect excuse to be close to her brother. I won't talk to you. Oomph. With that, she dashed upstairs, her long legs clad in white stockings carrying her swiftly away. Having witnessed Chu Tianping's transformation after consuming the elixir, she was determined not to embarrass herself in front of her brother and hurried to the bathroom to hide. Why aren't you eating? Qin Lang asked curiously as he observed Bai Ruyu stowing away the elixirs. Bai Ruyu retorted with irritation. There's no rush. It's not a matter of urgency. She stepped closer, helping to tidy the disheveled attire Qin Lang had been left with by her sister. You know what kind of personality Yin Yin has, don't you? Can't you put up a bit of resistance? Resistance? Why resist? Qin Lang replied, puzzled. Yin Yin hasn't done anything to me, and it seems she quite enjoys this. It's perfectly fine as long as she is happy. I can handle it. Bai Ruyu playfully smacked his chest, taking advantage and playing coy. Qin Lang shrugged. I've gone to great lengths to visit. You're sitting across from me, while Yin Yun is nestled comfortably in my arms. If I don't pamper her, who should I pamper? There was an underlying message in his words. Was he implying that he enjoyed this arrangement? In the exquisite, jade-like eyes of Bai Ruyu, a shimmering light danced as she gazed at Qin Lang for a prolonged moment, before casting a fleeting glance at her sister, who had ascended the stairs and disappeared thereafter. Resolutely, she settled herself upon Qin Lang's lap, her head gently resting against his chest. Is this what you desire? But do not misunderstand. I am not inclined towards you in that manner. I merely wish to express that I do not want Yin Yin to be so close to you. She is still so young. If you have any intentions, direct them at me. Oh, the audacity. Is there truly such a thing as a surrogate sister? Yet, looking at the faint blush adorning Bai Ruyu's cheeks, one could perceive her evident enjoyment. Even Qin Lang, a master of sophisticated tea arts, could not help but marvel. The future Queen of Commerce is indeed both enchanting and proud. Why do you always wear a shirt? It's rather uncomfortable to lean against, Bai Ruyu remarked, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear and glancing at the inner lining of Qin Lang's shirt. Although tidy and flattering to his physique, it was indeed not the most comfortable to rest upon. I think it looks quite good. Would you like me to wear something different next time? Qin Lang's lips curved slightly upward. But you must agree to one condition. What condition? Bai Ruyu appeared outwardly intrigued, yet inwardly she was utterly captivated by the sensation of leaning against Qin Lang. Since childhood, she had endured disdain from Bai Xiaochun, feeling that no matter how hard she tried, her efforts were overshadowed by the stigma of being an illegitimate child. All her endeavors felt as ephemeral as bubbles. Only in Qin Lang's embrace did she feel her existence affirmed. In that moment, she belonged to him while remaining true to her own heart. Qin Lang retrieved his phone, declaring, I have established a household rule for you. From now on, your daily attire must adhere to a specific theme. Bai Ruyu scrutinized the images flashing across his screen with skepticism. This is a week's worth of outfits. To cycle through them, understand? Qin Lang inquired patiently. Bai Ruyu's lips twitched in amusement. Do you really have such a fondness for stockings? Each photo depicted identical clothing styles, with only the stockings varying. Monday featured black stockings. Tuesday showcased white. Wednesday displayed fishnet. Thursday highlighted lace. Friday presented pearl sheen, and Saturday revealed a micro skirt. Bai Ryu suddenly noticed the absence of one image and curiously asked, what about Sunday? You only showed me from Monday to Saturday. Where is Sunday? Qin Lang playfully flicked her forehead, chuckling, you? Oh you. So clever yet so foolish at times. Can't you figure it out? Chapter 130. The Elder Zhou's Birthday. Bai Xiaoyan's confusion, such a lack of decorum. Bai Ruyu exclaimed, gingerly rubbing her forehead, casting an annoyed glance at Qin Lang. I have something serious to discuss with you. This weekend, the elder Zhou of the Zhou family in Tianhai City will celebrate his 70th birthday. Shouldn't we, the Qin family, pay our respects? The Zhou family holds a significant position in Tianhai City, particularly elder Zhou, who is among the earliest generations of business pioneers, having mentored many prominent merchants in the city. In the entire city of Tianhai, there are prominent figures of considerable stature. Moreover, this week, the elder of the Zhou family is rather obstinate. Despite his advanced age, he still firmly holds the economic lifeblood of the Zhou family, retaining nearly all the authority without delegating much, only granting the younger generation a few minor channels for survival. If an opportunity arises to forge a connection with the Zhou family, the sales channels for the beauty pill will be virtually secure and could swiftly expand throughout Tianhai. Business requires foresight. Although the beauty pill is managed by Mu Yuyan, the substantial stake held by Daqin Tianxia cannot remain passive and must be controlled to a certain extent. Of course, I shall attend. However, such troublesome matters will be left for me to handle. You should focus on your own tasks within the company. Qinlang smeeded. How could he possibly miss the grand occasion of the elder Zhou's birthday? This presents a splendid opportunity to usurp the fortunes of the favored son. For the favored daughter, Zhou Ziqing, this also represents an exceptional opportunity of significant importance in her eyes. The smile was perplexing, clearly indicating that he harbored no good intentions. Bai Ryu complained softly and stood up from Qinlang's embrace, striding directly upstairs. After a considerable time, she had yet to descend, prompting Qinlang's curiosity to ascend and check. Upon opening the door, he beheld Bai Ryu seated on the edge of the bed, bending over as she struggled to fit her foot into a pair of patent leather high heels, her hands smoothing the slightly wrinkled white stockings around her thighs. Her snow-like skin, accentuated by the white stockings, appeared even more delicate and proportionate, showcasing a pair of exquisitely beautiful legs that could captivate countless men. What are you staring at? I keep my promises. I agreed to your request, so I must fulfill my word. Today is Tuesday, and we agreed on white stockings. Bai Ryu huffed, employing a firm tone to mask her inner embarrassment. Qinlang, with a hint of skepticism, remarked, "That may be true, but I have never seen you wear white stockings before. Where did you acquire them? They cannot possibly be new. That is simply implausible. Unless, of course, you borrowed them from your sister, Bai Xiaoyun." Despite the unusual situation, Qinlang could not help but feel a stir within. The thought of his sister wearing stockings previously donned by his sister was rather provocative. "Xiaoyun is still in the shower. You mustn't act recklessly," Bai Ryu exclaimed, pushing Qinlang away as he sat beside her. She herself was baffled at why she had actually listened to Qinlang's nonsensical suggestions, running to her sister for a pair of stockings when she had none. Now, the memory filled her with embarrassment. Yet Qinlang remained undeterred, embracing Bai Ryu's head and planting a kiss on her lips. Bai Ryu's face flushed with panic and concern as she frequently glanced towards the door, pushing against Qinlang's chest in a flustered manner. "Please don't tease me further. Are you trying to kiss me?" Qinlang placed both hands on her shoulders, nodding with a playful air. Bai Ryu's heart was filled with apprehension, her expression betraying her flustered state. "No, please don't kiss me. If you do, I will lose my temper. What will I do if Yin finds out? How can I ever face her again?" At that moment, Bai Ryu's mind was in turmoil. She could not act recklessly and needed to wait until she regained her composure. Qinlang silently watched her, his gaze fixed upon her beautiful eyes, saying nothing. Yin was particularly fastidious, and the cleansing elixir would rid her body of impurities, undoubtedly keeping her in the bathroom for quite some time. "All right, you kiss me. If you don't, I'll be furious." Bai Ryu's heart raced uncontrollably, unable to withstand the intensity of Qinlang's gaze, a tingling sensation spreading within her. She wrapped her arms around his neck, leaning in closer. "Ding! Congratulations, host! You have acquired 1,000 points of Destiny villain value." In the evening, after luxuriating in the bath, the fragrant Bai Xiaoyun finally emerged, no longer a trace of the black sweat that had previously marred her. She stood at the top of the stairs, gazing at the empty living room, before turning to enter her sister's bedroom, her face alight with anticipation. "Sister, where is brother? Where'd he go?" Bai Ryu, covered by the blankets, sat up straight upon seeing Bai Xiaoyun enter, feeling somewhat flustered, her cheeks flushed. "You lingered in the bathroom for so long, and when I called for you, there was no response. He just left. I wanted to come out sooner, but after taking that cleansing elixir, I kept sweating profusely, and it was black, quite disgusting. I didn't want brother to see me like that." Reflecting on it now, Bai Xiaoyun felt a tinge of fear. Who could have anticipated the numerous impurities within her body? "Yin, your skin seems to have become even smoother." Bai Ryu reached out, pinching Bai Xiaoyun's cheek, which felt as silky as milk, subtly glowing, as if she had applied foundation. I think so too. It feels so wonderful to touch." Bai Xiaoyun thought joyfully about lifting the blanket to sleep alongside her sister, wishing for her to feel her skin. However, as soon as she lifted the covers. The chaotic scene beneath left her utterly astonished. What on earth happened? Bai Ryuel lowered her head in embarrassment, inwardly cursing Qin Lang 1,000 times over. Chapter 131. Lin Youchu's Predicament. Mother supervises the blind date. Meanwhile, at Kaiyuan Hotel, in the Imperial Box, a table was laden with an exquisite array of dishes. A stately woman in a light-colored blouse, her complexion slightly darkened, spoke in a stiff tone. Mrs. Lin, is there a mistake? We agreed to meet at 6 o'clock, and now it's already 3 minutes past. Where's Miss Lin? Why have we yet to see a single silhouette? This matchmaking affair had been arranged through connections by the Lin family. Had it not been for their acquaintance, how could Zhang Jiling have possibly consented to her son meeting the Lin family's young lady? Despite the Lin family's considerable wealth and influence at their core, they are merely a family of merchants. Her husband wields substantial power, ranking among the top 3 figures in the entire Tianhai city. Their son, still quite young, has returned from studying abroad and has swiftly ascended to a deputy division chief position within just a few years. By the time he reaches 30, he is certain to secure a role at the departmental level. The Lin family? They merely seek to expand their endeavors in Tianhai City, hoping to leverage their connections with us, and there is no need to extend them undue courtesy. Su Yorong's expression soured slightly. However, given the circumstances, she could only force a smile and say, Mrs. Zhang, you know how it is with young ladies. When it comes to matchmaking, they can be quite shy. She is likely upstairs preparing and will be down shortly. While speaking, she hurriedly sent several text messages to Lin Youchu, each punctuated with exclamation marks, urging her to come downstairs. Zhang Jiling, losing interest, declared, You have 3 minutes. If she hasn't arrived by then, we shall take our leave. Her demeanor was decidedly haughty, as if gracing the Lin family with her presence by accompanying her son to this matchmaking event. Even Su Yorong felt a twinge of irritation. What was this all about? Just because a man held a government position, what was so remarkable about it? After all, she had merely married a businessman. If she had chosen someone within the bureaucracy, she would have fared far better than this imperious woman before her. 3 minutes quickly passed. Zhang Jiling, visibly displeased, stood up and urged her son, who had been staring at Su Yorong. What are you waiting for? The Lin family is prominent and looks down on us. There's no point in lingering. Courtesy must be afforded based on merit. The young man seated there was named Zhang sharing his surname with both parents, hence his name. Rolling his eyes, he retorted, If you want to leave, go ahead. I'm here for the matchmaking, and I haven't even met her yet. He then turned to Su Yorong and asked, Annie, doesn't T. Youchu resemble you quite a bit? From the moment Su Yorong entered, Zhang had been captivated by her presence. She exuded an aura of grandeur that was simply astonishing. Despite her age, she showed no signs of it, and such a refined woman would certainly enhance one's stature when seen in public. Had she not introduced herself as Lin Youchu's mother, he might have doubted if the one he was to meet was indeed Su Yorong. How can you say that? Auntie is much older. There's no comparison with Youchu. Su Yorong, flattered by the compliment, felt a surge of joy that was almost childlike, as if she were a youthful bunny, bouncing with delight. No woman can resist being praised for her beauty, and Su Yorong was no exception, reveling in the admiration with exuberant enthusiasm. Otherwise, it would be implausible for someone of her maternal age to maintain such youthful vitality. She directed her words at the rising Zhang Jiling, saying, Madame Zhang, there's no need to rush things. I observe that and this child seem quite compatible. Who knows? They might even take a liking to each other, perhaps. Oomph. Zhang Jiling let out a cold huff, discomfort evident as she settled down, casting a sidelong glance at her son, inwardly cursing his lack of ambition. It was not that she believed her son held any particular affection for Lin Youchu. Rather, it seemed he had developed an interest in the beguiling Su Yorong. Before their arrival, she had deliberately refrained from showing her son a photograph of Lin Youchu, fearing he might become infatuated. Yet, she had not anticipated that in her meticulous planning, she had overlooked the enchanting Su Yorong. Merely the presence of a mother had already left her son utterly entranced. At that moment, the door swung open. Lin Youchu, clad in a simple outfit, entered from outside, her expression somewhat self-conscious. After calling out Mom, she hurriedly took a seat beside Su Yorong, her head bowed. What is the matter with you, child? Arriving late and not even offering an apology? A mere greeting would suffice. Instead, you just sit down as if it were perfectly acceptable. Zhang Jiling chastised sternly. Su Yorong's face mirrored her displeasure. As a mother, how could she not perceive her daughter's hidden intentions? Arriving so late and still donned in casual attire. Was she here for a matchmaking event, or had she just awakened from slumber? It was blatantly obvious she was deliberately causing a disturbance. Annoyed, she reached beneath the table and pinched her daughter's thigh. Lin Yuchu gasped, casting a resentful glance at her mother, all the while fervently praying, "Qin Lang, please arrive swiftly. This is a disaster." It seemed her family was indeed serious about this. She had fled to Tianhai City, believing that by not returning to Yanjing, her family would be unable to arrange a matchmaking meeting for her. Yet, who could have foreseen that they would find a suitor for her, even in Tianhai City? Moreover, her mother had personally traveled from Yanjing to supervise. They truly intended to marry her off. Oh heavens! No! The moment she stepped inside, Lin Yuchu noticed Zhang across from her, wearing glasses and clad in a commonplace brand. While that alone did not displease her, the most significant issue was his excessively oily complexion. His face glistened as if he were the boy from the Daqing oil field scene in viral videos. It was all too reminiscent. Are you even listening? Is it too much to expect a simple response? Zhang Jiling felt irked upon first laying eyes on Lin Yuchu. Like Su Yurong, both mother and daughter were nothing but enchantresses. Before Lin Yuchu could utter a word, Zhang retorted indignantly, "Mom, could you not speak so harshly? Yuchu has just arrived. Why not let her rest for a moment and enjoy a cup of tea?" As he spoke, he proactively poured a cup of tea and, with a flourish, slid it across the table to Lin Yuchu, wearing a self-satisfied smile that he believed exuded warmth. Lin Yuchu felt an unsettling churn in her stomach, momentarily sensing that international oil prices had surely plummeted. The oil from the oil field was spilling over. Chapter 132. Lin Yuchu's Pretend Boyfriend, the Treatment of a Fortunate Son. Zhang Jiling, with a stern expression, brusquely inquired, "Madam Lin, the matchmaker only mentioned that your daughter is beautiful. What about her education? Does she hold any professional titles? What qualifications has she obtained? And has she ever cohabitated with any other men?" One question followed another in rapid succession. Su Jiadong Ziplit Politili. She graduated with a bachelor's degree from a prestigious 985 university. As for titles, she has obtained several, but I can't recall the specifics. There are too many to count. Regarding cohabitation, rest assured, Madame Zhang, I can assure you that my daughter has never engaged in such arrangements. Listening on the side, Lin Yuchu felt an intense indignation swell within her. What nonsense was this? Was Zhang Jiling, the mother of someone from the Daqing oil field, truly so superficial? How dare she question her? Did she not consider the character of her own son? She muttered under her breath, "It's true that I graduated from a 985 university, but that was only because my father donated an entire teaching building for me to gain admission. As for my qualifications, many were bestowed upon me directly by my father's friends, without me even sitting for the exams. And as for cohabitation, that hasn't occurred, though I did have several miscarriages in the past, so whether I can conceive again is uncertain." Puffed. Zhang Jiling, having just taken a sip of tea, spewed it all out upon hearing these words, her eyes wide in shock. Zhang hurriedly grasped his mother's arm, urgently signaling her to cease. "It's not important. I don't care. Lin Yuchu is the most beautiful girl I have ever seen, especially with that doll-like face, reminiscent of a 16 or 17-year-old girl. Yet, that youthful visage carries the proud genes of Su Yurong, an alluring figure that one cannot help but be captivated by. Such beauty. What did it matter if she had experienced misfortune? He was indifferent. How dare you?" Zhang Jiling exclaimed, shaking off her son's arm. "You find this girl appealing? Despite her reckless behavior? What nonsense is this? How could someone raised without proper guidance be worthy of entering the Zhang family?" Upon hearing this, Su Yurong's initial intention to reprimand her daughter dissipated. She recognized that those words were merely fabrications from her daughter's mouth, initially planning to clarify the matter. However, with Zhang Jiling's aggressive stance driving her daughter to such depths of humiliation, how could a mother possibly chastise her own child? Were it not for the fact that Zhang Jiling's husband held a position of authority, she would have dearly liked to slap this woman across the face. Su Yurong's chest heaved with indignation, prompting Zhang to stare wide-eyed in astonishment. He gulped nervously, swiftly urging his mother to sit down. "Enough. Am I the one here for a blind date? Or are you? Blind date? Who told you I was here for a blind date?" Lin Yuchu was never one to tolerate being wronged. When had she ever suffered such indignities? Especially after Zhang Jiling's remarks, which had severely crossed her boundaries. With a cold huff, she declared, "Today, I am introducing my boyfriend to my mother. As for you two, you are merely here to make an appearance." Is it possible? Could you truly think that Lin Yuchu would be unable to find a husband? Boyfriend? You have found a boyfriend? Where is he? Su Yurong's curiosity was piqued. Could it be yet another of her daughter's clever ruses? If It should be noted that while Zhang Jieling was far from exemplary, her husband held a significant position. If she were to offend them, the Lin family might encounter difficulties in shifting their economic focus to Tianhai City. At that moment, a knock echoed on the door of the private room. Qin Lang entered, wearing a warm smile. Am I in the wrong place? Qin Yi, why have you arrived so late? Lin Yuchu exclaimed with the theatrics of a performer. Upon seeing Qin Lang, her heart soared. She dashed over and embraced his arm, nuzzling against it affectionately. You didn't even check on me. I was just scolded. Under the astonished gazes of Zhang's mother and son, Lin Yuchu nestled beside Su Yurong, winking at her mother, the implication clear. Look at my boyfriend. How does he measure up? Setting aside his background, simply his appearance was enough to overshadow Zhang who was still mining coal in Afghanistan, while Qin Lang had already ascended to the stratosphere. Lin Yuchu was acutely aware of her mother's tendencies towards vanity. If she were to introduce Qin Lang as the son-in-law of the Lin family, her mother would surely beam with pride. Is this truly your boyfriend? Not an actor you've hired to pose? Although Su Yurong came from a wealthy family, she had limited exposure to the circles of power. Moreover, Qin Lang's family was at the very heart of that elite circle. Despite being unaware of Qin Lang's true identity, she was nonetheless taken aback upon their first meeting. This was inconceivable. How could such a handsome man possibly be interested in her daughter? Surely, she wasn't paying for a heartthrob from the Beijing Film Academy, was she? Mom, what nonsense are you thinking? That's not the case at all. Qinggu is my boyfriend, Lin Yuchu declared, wrapping her arms around Qin Lang's neck and planting a kiss on his cheek, all the while mentally scolding her mother's taste. What kind of aesthetic was that? She had the figure and the looks. How could she not be a match for Qin Lang? Across the table, Zhang Er's eyes burned with rage as he witnessed the woman of his dreams nestled in another man's embrace, willingly bestowing affectionate kisses. Was this something a man could endure? Andy, what is happening? Wasn't this supposed to be a blind date? How did a boyfriend suddenly appear? Zhang Jieling was utterly exasperated. Su Yurong, if this matter remains unclarified, you are slapping the Zhang family in the face. Your daughter is already cavorting with dubious men outside, yet she dares to proclaim her intent to court my son. Do you think there is no one worthy in the Zhang family? Her words were sharp and relentless, cornering Su Yurong. Observing from the side, Qin Lang's heart brimmed with delight. What a delightful turn of events. He had been lured here by Mu Yuyin under false pretenses, only to be subjected to the whims of the one-eyed rabbit and kissed by Lin Yuchu. And now, he found himself in a position to flaunt and retaliate. Was this not the privilege reserved for the fated child of fortune? When had this notorious villain ever encountered such serendipity? He chose to remain silent, seated discreetly between Su Yurong and Lin Yuchu, inhaling a faint yet alluring fragrance. An unbidden sense of wonder filled him. The powerful do not deceive me. Though Cao Cao is deceased, the specter of the Cao thief lingers on. Chapter 133. Su Yurong, how could I have such a foolish daughter? Madame Zhang, please do not be agitated. Allow me to explain. I was completely unaware of this situation. Su Yurong hastily attempted to pacify the agitated crowd. To be candid, she held a genuine affection for her daughter's suitor, albeit solely for his looks. Su Yurong had always been a connoisseur of beauty. However, some matters were beyond her control. After all, the arranged meeting was intended as a familial alliance. The Zhang family, being prominent in Tianhai City, had considerable influence. Furthermore, it was rumored that they were aligning with provincial interests. Such news did not circulate without cause. It was substantiated by credible whispers. Otherwise, the Lin family would not have hastily arranged for Lin Yuchu to court the Zhang family. What further justification is needed? Your daughter has already brought along questionable men. Zhang Jieling was relentless. She had long harbored disdain for the seductive Su Yurong. Now, equipped with a valid reason, she stood atop the moral high ground. In an instant, Su Yurong found herself at a disadvantage. Observing from the sidelines, Lin Yuchu sought to sow discord. Sensing the opportune moment, she leaned in and whispered to Su Yurong, Mom, do not fear. My boyfriend hails from the esteemed Qin family in the capital, far surpassing the insignificant Zhang family. Excuse me? Su Yurong swiftly turned, scrutinizing Qin Lang with suspicion. You are from the Qin family? Qin Lang smiled and nodded. Indeed, Aunt. No sooner had he spoken than Su Yurong approached, showcasing her imposing figure before Qin Lang. She reached out, gently touched his forehead, and examined his eyelids with meticulous attention. Mom, what are you doing? Lin Yuchu inquired, her expression one of bewilderment. Yet, Su Yurong appeared oblivious, muttering in disbelief, something feels amiss. How could this be? He shows no signs of illness, and his eyes do not betray any serious condition. How could he be interested in my daughter? listening to her mother's whispered musings. Lin Yuchu felt an overwhelming urge to retch. What on earth was happening? Where could one find a mother so intent on disparaging her own daughter? How could she possibly be unworthy of Qin Lang, to the extent that he must suffer from a fever or a grave ailment in order to regard her? It pierces the heart, mother. What are you doing? Engaging in such tricks? Associating with such a dubious man? Let us go. Zhang Jiling rolled her eyes, tugging her son as she prepared to leave. However, Su Yurong, who had long been suppressed, stood her ground, her posture straightening. She obstructed Zhang Jiling's path, her expression icy as she declared, "You may insult me, and I can tolerate your disparagement of my daughter. But to speak ill of my son-in-law is something I cannot endure. Apologize, you must apologize today. If you do not apologize to my son-in-law, none of you shall leave this place." Oomph. She stood tall and proud, having long harbored disdain for Zhang Jiling. What nonsense is this? Speaking with an affected voice. She had purposefully maintained her upright stance since entering. What is the point of comparing? Even if Zhang Jiling were to inject a pound of water into herself, she could never match her in substance. You have arranged a blind date for your daughter without realizing she has a boyfriend outside. Isn't that the very definition of dubious behavior? You refuse to let me leave, do you? Very well. Today, I shall see how you reign supreme in Tianhai City. Zhang Jiling, no longer in a hurry to depart, took out her phone and dialed a number, sweetly cooing to the person on the other end. What else could she be doing? Summoning reinforcements, of course. Su Yurong grasped her daughter's arm, her expression grave. You didn't deceive me, did you? Is truly that Qin family? If there's even the slightest misstep, today may be disastrous for us both. Knowing the background of this woman, Su Yurong was particularly cautious. I didn't lie to you, Lin Yuchu replied, somewhat displeased. She felt as though she might have been adopted, as she bore no resemblance to her mother. Why is it acceptable to insult her, but not Qin Lang? Is there such a thing as a mother like this? Tell me, how far has it progressed? Su Yurong asked, a note of anxiety in her voice as she tightened her grip on the girl's hand. Lin Yuchu, somewhat dazed, found her thoughts elsewhere, wondering if she truly was adopted. Should she seek an opportunity to pull a strand of her mother's hair for a paternity test? After a moment's thought, she felt a twinge of fear. What if she truly wasn't her biological child? She had grown accustomed to a good life. And what would happen if the Lin family cast her out? I'm asking you a question. Su Yurong pressed, squeezing Lin Yuchu's hand. Only then did Lin Yuchu return to the present, puzzled. Which question? You're being so vague, I can hardly understand. How can you be so dim-witted? Which question could it be? Su Yurong rolled her eyes and glanced towards Qin Lang before leaning in to whisper candidly in her ear. It's about whether you two have been intimate, if Qin Lang has ever touched you. Lin Yuchu felt she had been quite open-minded, yet she was taken aback by her mother's boldness. She tightly pressed her lips together, her beautiful eyes wide with astonishment. After a moment of silence, she shook her head and spoke slowly. It hasn't reached that point yet. Oh, foolish girl, why are you so naive? With such an exceptional prospective son-in-law, how can you not seize the opportunity? Do you not realize that if Qin Lang's identity were to be revealed, there would be countless families, far grander than ours, clamoring for their daughters to be with him? Su Yurong, filled with exasperation, pinched Lin Yuchu's arm. Lin Yuchu felt a surge of frustration, observing her mother's eager demeanor as if she wished to present her on a silver platter to Qin Lang. She could only suppress her discomfort and fib. I was just joking. If we haven't reached that stage, how could Qin Lang possibly be here? Really? Su Yurong scrutinized Lin Yuchu, sensing something amiss but still kindly advised. Next time, be more mindful. To capture a man's heart, you must bear his child. You're not getting any younger. You should spend more time together. Lin Yuchu grimaced. She had merely invited Qin Lang as a shield, never contemplating such far-reaching implications. Children are not something to be taken lightly. She hastily fabricated, no way. In this regard, Qin Lang takes his precautions quite seriously. After uttering that, Lin Yuchu inwardly praised her cleverness. Now, it could hardly be blamed on her, could it? It was Qin Lang's doing. With her mother's temperament, would she dare to confront Qin Lang? Ridiculous. To her surprise, Su Yurong not only refrained from confronting Qin Lang, but also shot her a disapproving glance, curling her lip in disdain. How utterly foolish. He has a brilliant strategy. Can't you devise a means to navigate it as well? Chapter 134. Su Yurong. My son-in-law is truly remarkable. Lin Yuchu opened her mouth to say something, but found her voice caught in her throat, momentarily speechless. Such a bold maneuver is something most would not conceive, yet her mother, with a quick flick of her eyes, blurted it out. She even began to doubt whether she had been similarly naive in the past. Yuchu, it's not that I'm criticizing you, but there are some things you are still too young to understand. Setting aside Qin Lang's looks, there are very few in all of Tianhai City who can match him in that regard. Not to mention his family background. Even in a prestigious place like Yinjing, he is of significant stature. Your greatest asset is our Lin family. While we are indeed well off compared to ordinary people, in the presence of the Qin family, we are but a mere speck. As for you, Sai, as a mother, do I not know? You are simply not worthy of someone like Qin Lang. Fortunately, this boy seems oblivious and has taken a liking to you. If you fail to grasp this opportunity, should his vision clear one day, he might cast you aside without a second thought, and you'll find yourself regretting it too late. Su Yurong spoke earnestly, having been utterly delighted upon seeing Qin Lang for the first time. If he were merely the son of an ordinary family, her daughter might have had a chance. But now, understanding Qin Lang's background, it was clear that the Lin family was far from his reach. Do not even mention her being my daughter. Even if she were a decade younger, it would still be beyond comprehension. The depths of this situation are unfathomable. The two of them, one after the other, could easily find themselves submerged. Mother, am I truly your biological child? Lin Yuchu felt a pang of sorrow rising within her, nearly bringing her to tears. Casting a glance towards Qin Lang, who was smiling, she felt a surge of resentment. Initially, she appreciated his timely intervention, yet now her heart ached. Being chastised so harshly by her own mother was utterly heartbreaking. What are you two whispering about over there, pretending I'm not present? Zhang Jiling exclaimed imperiously. Let me tell you, this matter is far from settled. How dare you slap our Zhang family in the face? Just wait and see. At that moment, a knock resonated at the door, and a middle-aged man in a suit entered with a furrowed brow. His expression was grim as he glanced at his wife and son across the room, then turned his gaze to Su Yurong, astonishment flickering in his eyes before he questioned. Are you Su Yurong? What on earth is happening today? You arranged this matchmaking, yet now your daughter has found herself a boyfriend and brought my son here to provoke us deliberately? Su Yurong, being astute, was unwilling to engage in this entanglement. She swiftly redirected the conversation. Mr. Zhang, this incident is indeed a mistake on our Lin family's part, and we are willing to apologize. However, I isn't it a bit excessive for your wife to insult my daughter's boyfriend so harshly? Even an ordinary person deserves not to be subjected to such slander. Zhang Jiling huffed in displeasure. He is indeed a questionable character, associating with your daughter, who has had an abortion, and flaunting their affection. What could possibly come from that? Her frustration boiled over. Despite her husband's careful concealment, the depth of their understanding allowed her to see through his subtle intentions. Su Yurong and her daughter were nothing but seductresses. The middle-aged man then turned his attention to Qin Lang, frowning. Just as he was about to speak, Qin Lang interrupted with a cold smile. Mr. Zhang, your wife certainly possesses a grand sense of authority. In that singular moment, the middle-aged man's demeanor shifted dramatically. His pupils contracted in fear. He recognized that voice all too well. It was Qin Lang, the legitimate heir of the Qin family from Yinjing. Recently, he had solicited his assistance for a discreet visit to the deputy bureau chief of Tianhai City. He had been confident in his prospects for promotion, believing it was a foregone conclusion. But now, due to a single utterance from his wife, he felt as if he had plunged into an icy abyss. Zhang Jiling sensed something amiss, her intended insults towards Qin Lang dying on her lips. Yet, the middle-aged man did not spare his wife any kindness. He stepped forward and slapped her fiercely across the face, bellowing, "You wretched woman, what nonsense are you spouting? Apologize to young Master Qin immediately. To say he is questionable is to reveal your own character. Do you hear me? Apologize." Zhang Jiling, despite her considerable influence at home, found herself utterly restrained when it came to significant matters, unwilling to engage in any disputes with her husband. The sight of her spouse's reddened eyes was a second occurrence for her. The first had been when she had clashed with her father-in-law. How could this young man, whom she had verbally belittled, hold such importance in her husband's eyes, akin to that of his own father? A chill ran down her spine, prompting her to hastily approach and bow her head in trepidation. "Mr. Qin, I apologize for my ignorance and for offending you. I beg your forgiveness. Please do not hold a grudge against a mere woman like me." Her demeanor was exceedingly humble, and she frequently cast furtive glances at her husband, noting his still dark expression, which compelled her to lower her head even further. Qin Lang snorted coldly, remaining silent as his gaze shifted to Su Yurong. He adapted his demeanor according to his audience. In the presence of different individuals, he displayed varying attitudes. In this instance, despite his high status, It was unbecoming for a middle-aged man like him to strike his wife. Yet he had done so, driven by the perception that Qin Lang was nothing more than a spoiled rich kid, one who was unrepentantly arrogant, yet possessed an imposing background that was not to be trifled with. If one were to adopt the role of a wastrel, it must be done convincingly. Forgiving someone merely for an apology would hardly suffice. Instead, he seized the opportunity to grant Su Yurong, the cunning opportunist, the grace she sought. Yurong, I sincerely apologize. It was not my intention. I was merely caught up in the heat of the moment. You are kind-hearted and beautiful. Please, persuade Mr. Qin to forgive me this once. I promise it will not happen again. Tears nearly brimmed in Zhang Jiling's eyes. Her animosity towards Qin Lang stemming not from dislike, but rather from her grievances against Su Yurong. Yet, having encountered an immovable obstacle, she was compelled to humble herself before Su Yurong. Su Yurong reveled in the satisfaction of seeing Zhang Jiling bow before her. This was the first time a woman from a prominent family had done so in her presence. She deliberately hesitated, watching as Zhang Jiling seemed poised to strike herself. Before finally speaking, "Young Qin, why don't we let this matter rest? It's not a significant issue. Listen to me, and let them off this time, shall we? After all, the Zhang family is deeply rooted in Tianhai City. It would suffice to claim a small advantage without creating irreparable enmity." Qin Lang yawned nonchalantly and waved his hand dismissively. "Fine. If there is nothing else, you may leave. But should I ever hear you speak ill of Auntie or Yuchu again, it will not be so easily resolved. Of course. Thank you, Mr. Qin, for your magnanimity." Zhang Jiling hastily bowed in gratitude, clutching her husband and son's hands, desperately fleeing the private room. It was only after they exited the Kaiyuan Hotel that she angrily shook off her husband's grasp. "Zhang Zihui, have I ever endured such humiliation in my life? Who on earth is that young man? If he doesn't offer an explanation, I will not let this matter rest." Zhang Jiling's heart was akin to a volcano on the verge of eruption. She could no longer contain her fury, exhibiting behavior unbecoming of a high-ranking official's wife, but rather resembling a furious shrew as she berated Zhang Zihui. Zhang too, was filled with indignation, still preoccupied with the earlier incident involving that pair. "Dad, why should that young man snatch away my blind date the moment he arrives? Why are we left speechless?" After a moment's reflection, Zhang felt his words were somewhat misplaced. When his father had erupted in anger and struck his mother, he had been startled and inadvertently released a small sound. Well, if he kept it to himself, no one would be the wiser. Zhang Zihui took a deep breath, furrowing his brow. "Enough of the commotion. Do you know who that young man, Qin Xiao, is? He is the legitimate heir of the Qin family from Yanjing, the son who frequently graces the news broadcasts. Are you aware that I am about to be transferred to the province? If we offend Qin Xiao, with just a few words from him, do you believe that those who are supposed to cast votes will not suppress all my rightful votes?" It wasn't that Qin Lang's father would exploit his position for personal gain. These matters were scarcely related to the Qin family. After all, they operated on entirely different levels, separated by several ranks. However, this does not prevent those beneath him from speculating. Better to kill an innocent than to let a guilty one go free. Does Zhang Zihui require education in this principle? He was all too familiar with the consequences. Qin Xiao's arrogant nature meant that offending a typical young master could be resolved with an apology. Yet why choose to provoke Qin Xiao directly, even going so far as to insult him? That alone could be considered a lenient response. Do you understand? Zhang Zihui was seething with frustration. Simply due to this trivial matter involving his wife and son, he nearly jeopardized his career, feeling a constant sense of dread. Yet he dared not approach Qin Xiao for clarification, his heart racing uncontrollably. Gulp. Zhang Jiling swallowed hard, her back dampened with cold sweat. While she was not in politics, after years of exposure, she understood the significance of the figure her husband mentioned. Anxiously, she pondered, was my demeanor not sufficiently humble? Perhaps I should return and slap myself a few times in front of Su Yurong. Maybe I can salvage this situation. Upon realizing Qin Lang's identity, she comprehended the gravity of the trouble she had stirred. The conflict with Su Yurong was trivial in comparison. If her actions were to cause her husband any misfortune in his promotion, her future comfort would be jeopardized. This was a matter of great importance for the Zhang family's future. While fear gripped her, a hint of resentment also surfaced. Why did that vixen Su Yurong possess such extraordinary luck? Could she truly forge a connection with a figure as prominent as Qin Xiao? If she were to bear a daughter, surely that child would surpass Lin Yuchu by immeasurable degrees. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, her gaze toward her son grew increasingly disdainful. "Never mind. You need not involve yourselves in this matter any further. I shall personally handle the affairs of the Lin family from now on. When the focus of the Lin family shifts, I shall facilitate matters. After all, they are significant merchants, and it is reasonable to claim they contribute substantially to the tax base of Tianhai City while providing employment opportunities for the populace. Zhang Zihui, weary of further conversation, leaned back against his forehead and entered the Audi that had long awaited them outside. Zhang Jiling and Zhang Er also took their seats within. The three of them, burdened with unspoken worries, watched as the Audi, with a license plate ending in a string of zeros and the final digit being 2, slowly departed from Kaiyuan Hotel. Inside the imperial suite, Su Yurong's heart was filled with joy as she eagerly served dishes to Qin Lang, refilling his glass with wine. There was no hint of a mother-in-law's demeanor. She was clearly acting as a devoted attendant. Lin Yuchu, observing from the side, felt compelled to withhold the truth. If she were to reveal that Qin Lang was merely a fade, a mere shield, she feared that by tomorrow, the Lin family would no longer recognize her as their daughter. As the drinks flowed and the dishes were savored, Su Yurong cheerfully remarked, "Little Qin, the hour grows late. You needn't return home. Stay here and rest. Annie will arrange for a double room for you." Lin Yuchu's eyes widened in shock. Something felt amiss. Why a double room, rather than a standard one, a king-sized room, or even a presidential suite? This defied logic, given her mother's intentions. Was she not meant to facilitate a night spent together with Qin Lang? How had the plan changed at the last moment? Curiosity piqued. She leaned closer to Su Yurong and whispered, "Mom, is that really necessary? If we have a double room, each sleeping on separate beds, it would be better for him to rest at his own home." Su Yurong turned around, rolling her eyes dramatically. Frustration welled within her. She genuinely could not fathom what was going on in her daughter's mind. After all this time, did Lin Yuchu still not grasp her intentions? To ensure that everything proceeded flawlessly, she felt compelled to remind her daughter, "You silly girl. A double room does not mean you will each occupy separate beds. There is a significance to this arrangement. It is not as simple as you presume. How could you be so naive? I truly wonder how I ended up with such a dim-witted child." Did she truly believe Su Yurong had carelessly suggested a double room? No, she had planned meticulously, considering every angle. Enough with the chatter. It is getting late, and while you may not need rest, little Qin requires his. "Off to bed with you," Su Yurong urged, hastily ushering her daughter out of the suite. She then arranged for Lin Yuchu and Qin Lang to share a double room. With a firm knock, she delivered a pot of tea and then closed the door firmly behind her. In the twin room, only Qin Lang and Lin Yuchu remained, seated at opposite ends of the bed, the atmosphere tinged with an unmistakable awkwardness. Even Lin Yuchu, with her bold and spirited demeanor, sensed that something was amiss. After all, Qin Lang was Mu Yuyan's partner, while she was Mu Yuyan's close friend. The current situation made her feel as if she were usurping her friend's boyfriend like a scheming interloper. "Qin Lang, I appreciate your assistance today, but my mother is a bit peculiar, and I'm not entirely certain why she's behaving this way. It seems you want to be able to leave tonight. How about we just make do for one evening here? After all, it's a twin room. We can each sleep separately. Tomorrow, I'll explain everything to Yuyan. What do you say?" Lin Yuchu broke the silence, forcing a smile despite her discomfort. Qin Lang shrugged, lying back on the mattress, stifling a yawn as he adjusted the pillow behind his head. "Well, today's issue is resolved, but I must remind you, this is a one-time occurrence, and there will be no repeats." Lin Yuchu nodded. "Don't worry, next time I'll find an opportunity to say we broke up. That way, my mother won't dare to cause you trouble. It's impossible for me to keep using you as a shield." With her personality, she is probably eager to have a grandchild in 9 months. To prevent any unforeseen complications, it was crucial to sever this connection before her mother took action. "That's your concern," Qin Lang replied, somewhat lethargically, as he picked up a cup of tea from the bedside table and drank it all in one go, then closed his eyes, drifting into a light slumber. Lin Yuchu also lay down, turning her head to the side, her mind in turmoil. What was she to do in the future? Without Qin Lang as her shield, how would she manage if more suitors like Zhang San and Zhang Si came around? No one could serve as a better shield than Qin Lang. His family background alone could intimidate a multitude of prospective matches, and within her own family, no one dared to utter a word against him. Yet, that rascal had been preemptively claimed by her best friend. Suka pradikamin. Her thoughts tangled like a ball of yarn, and before she knew it, a good 15 minutes had slipped away. Suddenly, Lin Yuchu felt something was off. She turned, only to find Qin Lang hunched over across from her. It struck her as peculiar. What was happening? Panic surged within her as she realized Qin Lang's gaze was predatory, akin to a ravenous wolf eyeing its prey, fixated on her exquisite features and the exaggerated curves of her form. His voice took on a sinister tone. Your mother has drugged the tea she brought earlier. The notion seemed entirely plausible, given her mother's tendencies. Don't panic. I'll go find her and get the antidote. Lin Yuchu felt utterly defeated. She had anticipated her mother might resort to some underhanded tactics in the future, but to think she would not even wait until tonight to take action? This was unacceptable. After all, he was her best friend's man. She could not allow anything reckless to occur. Without hesitation, Lin Yuchu dashed towards the door, flinging it open, only to confront her eavesdropping mother lurking outside. She quickly closed the door again and, exasperated, urged, "Hurry up and bring me the antidote." Su Yurong gradually straightened her back from a bent position, exhibiting no remorse for her actions. Instead, she shot a disdainful glance at Lin Yuchu, poking her on the head with her finger, scolding, "You wretched girl. All you know is that your earlier words were nothing but lies. If there truly were a relationship, would you still be thinking about coming out to ask for an antidote at this moment? Don't be so stubborn. That young man, Qin Lang, truly seems remarkable. Finding such a boyfriend is indeed a stroke of fortune for our Lin family. No, that's not right. It's a blessing from our ancestors. In the past, you missed your opportunities, and I've borne no grudge against you, but now I am thinking of your happiness for the rest of your life." Lin Yuchu felt a pang of sorrow, wrestling with her thoughts. It seemed impossible to convince her formidable mother with a lie, so she clenched her teeth and confessed, "Mom, it's my fault. Today's affair was entirely my doing, inviting Qin Lang over to deal with you. He is my best friend's boyfriend. There's no way I can be involved with him. If something were to happen, how would I face my friend afterward? Please just provide the antidote. And once the effects on Qin Lang are neutralized, you can scold me as much as you like." Upon hearing this, Su Yorong's expression shifted dramatically. Finally, she threw her hands up in despair, declaring, "It's over. Our Lin family is doomed. We won't escape this fate." Lin Yuchu's face was filled with terror. "What's wrong? Is there really no antidote?" Su Yorong rolled her eyes. "Do you think I'm the kind of person who leaves a way out, let alone an antidote? Even if we rush to the hospital now, there's no way to undo my unique method of warding off evil. This concoction, even if given to that useless man of mine, would yield significant results. How much more so for the spirited Qin Lang? It's all ruined. If anything goes awry with Qin Lang, our entire Lin family will pay the price." Panicking, Lin Yuchu took out her phone, hastily preparing to call for help. Su Yurong swiftly grasped her arm, admonishing, "What do you intend to do? Call an ambulance? Do you want to make this catastrophe public?" "No, I plan to summon Yu Yin to help detoxify Qin Lang." Lin Yuchu exclaimed anxiously. If anything were to happen to Qin Lang, not only would their family be doomed, but she would also risk turning her best friend into an enemy. A fleeting glimmer of something unusual passed through Su Yorong's eyes, well concealed. By the time your friend arrives, young Qin may already succumb to the poison, or worse, he could explode. "You wretched girl, you've caused me great trouble." With that, she placed her hand on the doorknob, her expression filled with grievance. In a panic, Lin Yuchu secured the doorknob tightly. "Mom, what are you doing? We can't go in there. It's like sending a lamb into a den of tigers." "Su Yurong cursed. What else can we do?" "How precious do you think you are, fooling your mother so cruelly? If we send in just any woman and something untoward happens, our Lin family would still face ruin. If you refuse to go in, what can I do? You ungrateful child." I, Lin Yuchu, opened my mouth, but the bitterness within was beyond expression. Ultimately, it was her own decision that led to her misfortune. Who asked her to have such a formidable mother? Can I not go? Can I not go? Lin Yuchu felt as despondent as a lost dog, her entire being engulfed by a sense of despair. With sluggish movements, she opened the door and staggered inside. Her silhouette was profoundly forlorn. As the poem attests, the wind is bleak, the waters of the Yi are cold. The Lin family has a daughter who has departed and shall never return. Chapter 137. Su Yurong was stunned. The following morning, shortly after Qin Lang left the Kaiyuan Hotel, the old witch, Su Yurong, hastily entered the double room, eager to ascertain the situation. Last night, she had unknowingly fallen asleep while listening, oblivious to any sounds. It was all the fault of those decorators, sealing the soundproofing so tightly. It forced her to personally investigate the matter. Upon entering the room, Su Yurong was taken aback. In a flurry, she closed the door, staggered to her daughter's side, grasping her hand with a pained expression. "Yuchu, it's all my fault, all my fault. It's your mother who has harmed you. Indeed, Su Yurong had aspired to cling to the Qin family, seeking shelter beneath their vast tree. Some of her actions last night, such as insisting on entering, were a form of veiled coercion to get her daughter inside. Yet, her deepest concern remained her daughter. What mother does not ache for her child? Now, seeing her precious Yu Chu in such a state, how could she hold back the tears welling in her eyes? They fell, plopping onto Lin Yuchu's arm. Perhaps due to the depth of their familial bond, Lin Yuchu awakened from her confusion and uttered, "Mom, I want some water." Su Yurong hurriedly poured a glass of water, but just as she was about to present it to Lin Yuchu, it slipped from her grasp and shattered on the floor. She quickly dialed the front desk, requesting a bottle of mineral water. Lin Yuchu greedily drank the mineral water, her small frame concealing immense energy. Draining the bottle in one go, Su Yurong's heart twisted in anguish as she held her daughter's small hand. "Yuchu, I truly am an incompetent mother. I had no idea that Qin Lang would be such a heartless scoundrel. Had I known, I would never have let you suffer like this. Even if it meant sacrificing my own life, I would never have allowed such a thing." Sorrow, self-reproach, heartache. A multitude of emotions brewed within Su Yurong as she witnessed her daughter in this state, feeling an overwhelming sympathy from the depths of her heart. She had thought Qin Lang would be no worse than her own man. Who could have anticipated such a vast chasm between individuals? No, that little bastard of the Qin family cannot simply walk away unscathed. I shall not rest until I teach him a lesson and release this pent-up frustration. Su Yurong was consumed with righteous indignation. As Su Yurong observed her daughter transformed into her current state, an uncontrollable rage surged within her. She felt an overwhelming sense of inadequacy as a mother, a burden she could not evade, and resolved to double her efforts to compensate for her daughter's plight. However, how could she possibly swallow her indignation without confronting Qin Lang to demand an explanation? Before she could even embark on that quest for accountability, Lin Yuchu, having finished a bottle of mineral water, grasped her mother's arm, her expression filled with melancholy. "Mom, I want to allow you to bully Brother Qin Lang." Su Yurong turned to see her daughter's worried face, clearly fearing for Qin Lang's safety. She reached out to gently pat Lin Yuchu's head, asking, "Yuchu, have you lost your senses? Are you being threatened by that man with the surname Qin?" She found it incomprehensible that her daughter would defend that scoundrel at such a moment. Unless coerced, she couldn't fathom any other reason. Lin Yuchu pouted, cheeks puffed in indignation. "Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? How could Brother Qin Lang threaten me? He cares for me deeply. He wouldn't do anything to harm me. Oh, just let this go. I need to rest for a bit. I didn't sleep at all last night." With an impatient shove, she urged Su Yurong away. Su Yurong's lips quivered as she gazed at her daughter, sensing something was amiss. Could it be? The thought sent shivers down her spine. This was disastrous. She was certain her initial suspicions were correct. To state her daughter was an implied that rather than harboring resentment, she might have developed a dependency on that wretch. Su Yurong's mind went blank, struggling to comprehend such a notion. She lowered her gaze to her defiant daughter and hesitantly asked, "Yuchu, you don't actually think Qin Lang is rather decent, do you?" "Oh, Mom, can you please stop bothering me? Wasn't it you who let me into the room last night? Why are you complaining now?" Lin Yuchu replied with evident disdain. She simply could not grasp her mother's current behavior, oblivious to her own state of distress. "Can't you give me a moment of peace? All right, I'll go. I'll go." Su Yurong managed a bitter smile, glancing back at her daughter as she left the room, her heart heavy with sorrow. Once the door closed, she slumped helplessly to the floor, feeling utterly despondent, chastising herself 1,000 times over. When would she see Brother Qin Lang again? How would she explain everything to Yu Yin upon their next encounter? Lost in her thoughts, Lin Yuchu murmured to herself. As silence enveloped the room, Lin Yuchu embraced a pillow, shifting her body to curl up in the remnants of warmth from the blanket, inhaling the sweet air, her beautiful eyes fluttering shut. A gentle smile gracing her lips, hinting at a fleeting moment of happiness. Chapter 138. The blood-red mandrake's submissive lip bowing down ding. Congratulations to the host for capturing the female lead, Lin Yuchu. The villainous value stands at 500,001,0005. Upon returning to the villa, Qin Lang lay on his bed, activating the system's notification sound. Listening to the melodious sound of the villain's points being credited, it felt as if all fatigue had evaporated. One could not help but wonder where Su Yurong had procured such a thing. If only it could be procured in bulk. Ahem. Qin Lang uneasily recalled Junzi and the other bodyguards, who had frequented Kainzillion numerous times. Surely their bodies could not withstand much more. As the employer, He felt a responsibility to consider the welfare of his subordinates. It would be prudent to find an opportunity to subtly inquire from Lin Yuchu about the concoction that Su Yurong possessed. After all, Qin Lang had many friends, and surely there were others in need. As for the matter of being drugged, he hardly regarded it as significant. Although Su Yurong had her talents, her eyes betrayed her when she was up to no good. For instance, when she brought in the pot of tea last night, her gaze was fixated on it. He found it hard to believe there was nothing amiss. He had initially intended for Lin Yuchu to drink first, but who would have guessed that this lawful little girl would simply collapse in a slumber? Thus, he had to reluctantly set an example himself. It felt tolerable enough. All right, come out now, no need to hide. With a yawn, Qin Lang impatiently urged. Upon entering the room, he immediately sensed the presence of someone within. After assessing his gains, he promptly exposed their hiding place. Creak! The wardrobe within the room opened from the inside, and the blood-colored mandala emerged with an icy demeanor, her emotions inscrutable. She stated bluntly that Chun Pingyan had already confirmed that the soul-conserving method of the 9 wells was nearly lost to time. Yet when her sister inquired, he answered without hesitation. Even though she was young back then, this matter was inseparable from her master. The deep-seated blood feud she bore was never forgotten by the blood-colored mandala. However, regarding the events of those years, neither she nor Chinziki could uncover a trace. Until Qin Lang's arrival, everything became clear. The culprit and accomplices responsible for her family's demise, regardless of who they were or their motivations, she would never let them go. This grievance must be cleansed with blood. Leaning against the bed with arms crossed, Qin Lang casually remarked, "So, what is it that you desire now?" "I wish for your assistance in eliminating Chun Pingyan and his master. I am willing to pay any price." She could handle matters concerning her biological father herself. Even the great families of Modu did not intimidate her. No matter how large their clan, only a figure like Chun Ziki could pose a threat, while someone like her, a killer, would make no impact. However, she had no confidence in confronting Chun Pingyan and his elusive master. Just the presence of Chun Pingyan was enough to detect her eavesdropping, let alone his mysterious master. The only ally she could think of was Qin Lang. Only he possessed the capability to eradicate both Chun Pingyan and his apprentice. Qin Lang rolled his eyes. "A price? What do you have left that is worth my exploitation? I merely provided you with clues. Now that your enemies have been located, do you still require my assistance in resolving this matter? Is there truly such a thing as a bargain in this world?" The Crimson Mandala kneels, declaring that if you are willing to slay Chun Pingyan, she would gladly serve you for life, never to betray you. In the original narrative, the Crimson Mandala is characterized as a fierce and proud female assassin, known for her stubbornness. It is no surprise that she would pursue Qin Lang after he preemptively eliminated Yifeng. She possesses an unwavering pride, and her willingness to submit now, kneeling and expressing her servitude, is undeniably heartfelt and genuine. Why must this be so? Qin Lang sighed, shaking his head. I bear no enmity towards Chun Pingyan. At such a crucial juncture, it was imperative for him to completely dissociate himself from Chun Pingyan, regardless of his inner desire to eliminate him. The more he feigned indifference, the greater his confidence would grow, thus increasing the cost of the Crimson Mandala's commitment. Raising her gaze, the Crimson Mandala's eyes glimmered not with malice, but with profound confidence. Your bodyguards, though competent, pale in comparison to my abilities. Furthermore, your unscrupulous nature renders certain actions inconvenient for those of reputable standing, while I can execute them without hesitation. For instance, I have already administered the concoction to those individuals you requested, including the elder of the Zhou family. Should they become even slightly incensed, repercussions are inevitable. If that is the case, I might consider your proposition, for your efficiency is indeed commendable, Qin Lang mused, stroking his chin in contemplation. The Crimson Mandala, no longer verbose, bowed her proud head, proclaiming her willingness to heed her master's commands henceforth. Very well, it is settled. Upon your return, instruct Shinziki to find an opportunity to release Chun Pingyan within the next few days, before the weekend. Qin Lang commanded coldly. During this weekend, the Zhou family matriarch would host a birthday celebration, and Chun Pingyan would undoubtedly attend. Moreover, a significant conflict would arise between Chun Pingyan and the prominent Zhou Ziqing, which, originally a mere thread connecting them, would evolve into a catastrophe due to Qin Lang's intervention. With a sinister smile, he thought, the traps have already been meticulously laid, and the Zhou matriarch has been dealt with by the Crimson Mandala. How could one allow the protagonist, Chun Pingyan, to remain absent? The Crimson Mandala asked no further questions, merely nodding in agreement. She stood silently in the room, awaiting for what seemed like an unfinished task. Are you not leaving? Do you intend to stay for lunch? Qin Lang urged, his patience wearing thin. What are you staring at? He felt a chill as the crimson mandala lingered, her melancholic expression unsettling him. At his insistence, she turned and departed. Watching her graceful figure retreat, Qin Lang furrowed his brow, lost in thought. How is it that it feels less like a strategy employed by oneself in the presence of the blood-red mandala, and more as if the latter is deliberately seeking an excuse to draw closer? In Chapter 139, Zhou Ziqing finds herself in a predicament, while Chun Pingyan appears to be posturing. The weekend arrived in the blink of an eye. On this day, the Zhou family villa was adorned in festive decorations, radiating joy. It was the 70th birthday of old Master Zhou, and nearly all the younger generations of the family had traveled from far and wide to celebrate this momentous occasion. Wishing grandfather boundless fortune like the eastern sea and longevity surpassing the southern mountain. Here is a golden bowl from your grandson. Please accept it with a smile. Wishing grandfather auspiciousness and prosperity. May you celebrate this day for many years to come. Here is a jade talisman from your grandson. Please accept it with a smile. Wishing grandfather good health. Here is a copy of the Tao Te Ching from your granddaughter. Please accept it with a smile. At the banquet, old Master Zhou, clad in a bright red robe, sat at the head table, his face aglow as he basked in the blessings of his descendants. However, when Zhou Ziqing took the stage, a single remark plunged the festive atmosphere into silence. While others presented auspicious gifts symbolizing good fortune and wealth, she offered the Tao Te Ching. What could this mean? Was she insinuating that the old master lacked morality? Zhou Ziqing, what is your intention? On this joyous occasion, what sort of gift is that? Though you may lack the ability to partake in the family business, no one has pressured you. If you wish to be a university professor, earning a meager sum, it matters little. However, on such a significant day as grandfather's 70th birthday, you present merely a book, and of all things, the Tao Te Ching? Is this appropriate? You must apologize to grandfather. Otherwise, this incident will not be so easily overlooked. Many peers, as well as elders, began to voice their approaches. It must be noted that numerous guests from outside were present at the banquet, but their gifts had already been presented before entering, thus avoiding any entanglements with the younger members of the Zhou family. Before such a large gathering, a multitude directed their sharp criticisms at Zhou Ziqing, pressing her relentlessly as if eager to chastise her on the spot. They showed no regard for her dignity whatsoever. Not only were her peers and elders reproaching her, but even old Master Zhou, seated at the head of the table, appeared increasingly uncomfortable. It was akin to the disgust one feels when someone unexpectedly spits nearby during a serene tea session. In stark contrast, Zhou Ziqing, at the center of this storm of public opinion, wore an expression of indifference, as if all the doubts and accusations were utterly unrelated to her. Zhou Ziqing, will you not apologize? Urged the Zhou family elder, his tone icy and exceedingly fierce. Even her father, standing beside her, dared not utter a word. Zhou Ziqing cast a glance, finding it somewhat amusing. This was her father, a man utterly devoid of courage. She had no expectation of him coming to her defense. At that moment, a voice broke the tension. I believe there has been a misunderstanding. After all, Professor Zhou possesses knowledge far beyond the ordinary, and her gift of the Tao Te Ching carries its own profound significance. Do not underestimate this book, for someone of such advanced age as old Master Zhou. A thorough reading can not only refine one's character and promote relaxation, but also serve as a remedy for ailments and enhance memory. The fortunate scion Chun Pingyan, upon his release from detention, found himself amidst a scene of humiliation. Recently, the Chu family had been preoccupied, one member entangled in business affairs, while another sought connections with the Bai sisters. Consequently, the task of delivering congratulatory gifts fell to him. To his surprise, he stumbled upon a scene where Zhou Ziqing was being cornered. How could he remain an idle bystander? It is essential to note that Zhou Ziqing, in terms of both beauty and grace, was an unparalleled presence at the Zhou family birthday banquet. If he could shield her from adversity, he would undoubtedly win her favor. As Chun Pingyan approached the center of the banquet, Zhou Ziqing's aunt rudely questioned, "Who are you?" "This is a private matter of the Zhou family. What concern is it of yours? You come here, pathetically presenting a book, and expect it to be lauded?" Chun Pingyan cast a smile at Zhou Ziqing, noting her impassive demeanor, and turned his attention to the rude woman, introducing himself. "I am Chun Pingyan, the representative of the Chu group, and also a bodyguard for the Chu family." Upon hearing this, Zhou's aunt felt a pang of unease. After all, the Chu group was no trifling entity, and she was compelled to show some respect. However, upon learning that Chun Pingyan was merely a bodyguard, her disdain was palpable. This matter does not concern you. The farther away you are, the better. When did our family affairs become the business of a mere bodyguard? Are you involved with this shameless girl? Chun Pingyan smirked inwardly, mocking their superficiality and ignorance. Had they known even a fraction of his capabilities, they would not dare act so brazenly in his presence. Were it not for Zhou Ziqing, he would not have tolerated such indignities. Just as he was about to speak, Zhou Ziqing interrupted him, her expression indifferent. This matter does not concern you, so do not interfere. She recognized Chun Pingyan's good intentions, but was unwilling to drag him into this murky situation, for her reason for presenting the Dao De Jing was not as he perceived. Zhou Ziqing, are you out of your mind? You refuse to meet the distinguished gentleman arranged by the family, yet you choose to associate with this inconsequential nobody. Your presence in the Zhou family is a profound embarrassment. Zhou Ziqing's uncle, aunt, and other relatives pointed accusatory fingers at her, reprimanding and berating her collectively. At the moment when Zhou Ziqing felt most helpless and desolate, the doorman glanced at the invitation in his hand and promptly announced in a booming voice, Mr. Qin Lang, chairman of the Qin Tianxia Investment Corporation, is here. All eyes converged at that point, dressed in a tailored suit. Qin Lang exuded a smile that seemed to tread upon the hearts of the attendees as he made his grand entrance. Qin Lang, the esteemed chairman of the Qin Tianxia? Wasn't it said that this company belonged to the legitimate heir of the Qin family from Yanjing? Could it be that he has arrived in person? Hush! Do not speak carelessly. Some backgrounds are not for us to discuss. We wouldn't want to give anyone fodder for gossip. It was rather peculiar that this young Master Qin, of all people, would attend, while the Zhou family held a respectable position in Tianhai City. Comparing them to this young master was akin to an ant standing before an elephant. Even for a mere appearance, his personal presence seemed unnecessary. Something was amiss. There was undoubtedly an underlying issue. Under the watchful gaze of the crowd, Qin Lang approached Zhou Ziqing, seemingly oblivious to his surroundings. As he wrapped an arm around her shoulder, with a smile, he addressed the furious relatives before him, softly inquiring, just now, I believe I heard someone disparaging my family's Ziqing for her lack of shame. Who is it? Please repeat it for me now. Chapter 140. Zhou Ziqing's resentment still hurling insults? Don't be absurd. Upon witnessing Qin Lang's embrace of Zhou Ziqing, the relatives who had been criticizing her felt a chill of dread wash over them. Who could have known that aside from that foolish bodyguard, Zhou Ziqing had such a connection with Qin Lang? It is not the cunning vixen's charm that is worrisome, but rather her intellect. Truly, she is a university professor capable of attracting even someone of Qin Lang's stature. What now? Zhou Ziqing's aunt glanced sideways, noticing several younger relatives and her sister-in-law staring back at her, wide-eyed and speechless. The entire room fell silent, rendered powerless. I am asking you a question. Who was the one that insulted her? Are your ears deaf? Qin Lang's expression was icy, showing no inclination to spare their pride as he fixed his gaze upon the influential relatives, his countenance darkening with pressure. Young Master Qin, you must be mistaken. We did not insult Ziqing. Zhou Ziqing's aunt chuckled nervously, her voice trembling. A chill surged through her legs, creeping up her spine as Qin Lang's roar sent shivers down her back, compelling her to hastily clarify. Indeed, young Master Qin, you must have misunderstood. Ziqing is so exceptional. How could we possibly slander her? It was merely that she presented us with a copy of the Dao De Jing, and we misinterpreted it. Yes, Ziqing is a university professor, cultured and refined, far beyond our humble status. The Dao De Jing is a sacred text. Reading it cultivates one's character. Our ignorance led to our misunderstanding of Ziqing's profound wisdom. Right, look at us uneducated fools. We are merely loudmouthed. And we sincerely apologize for any misunderstanding caused to you, young Master Qin. Zhou Ziqing's uncle, aunt, and other influential relatives all scrambled to flatter and apologize before Qin Lang, attempting to defuse the situation with their evasive and obsequious remarks. In their hearts, they had scolded Zhou Ziqing 1,000 times over. This little vixen was truly adept at feigning innocence. Having met someone as significant as Qin Shao, she remained utterly silent, clearly intending to push them into the abyss. It appeared that any future attempts to target Zhou Ziqing would be futile. Nevertheless, Zhou Ziqing was, after all, a member of the Zhou family. If they could leverage this opportunity to align themselves with Qin Shao and flatter this enchantress, they might find it acceptable. Qin Lang turned his gaze towards Zhou Ziqing's exquisite visage and softly inquired, "Is that so?" Zhou Ziqing, unaware of Qin Lang's true identity, had always been at odds with the Zhou family and had little involvement with them. However, despite her detachment from familial ties, she could discern the fear reflected in her relative's eyes, understanding that Qin Lang's formidable background was beyond the Zhou family's reach. "You are the one who stirs up trouble," Zhou Ziqing remarked, playfully pinching Qin Lang's waist from behind. Her ancestral skill and subtlety was instinctive, requiring no formal training. Though their intimacy was evident, their small gestures were well concealed, hardly attracting anyone's attention. Yet, Chun Ping'an possessed an exceptionally keen eye. Even though Zhou Ziqing attempted to mask her affection, he caught sight of this ambiguous exchange, feeling a twinge of envy. Earlier, when the Zhou family members